Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome into Hoopsville. Sorry for our delay. Well into our show, if you're watching to us live, that we would normally be. We would normally be on the air talking a lot of hoops right now, and I apologize for our delay. I kid you not. It doesn't matter how many tests we do on this program. We somehow botch it. But welcome into Hoopsville, everybody, on this Thursday evening. We have lots to talk about tonight, so we're not going to be able to do much in this first block since we're so late hitting the air. If you listen to the podcast or on demand, you have no idea what we're talking about. But trust me, we're late. We're lost a good chunk of time. We tested everything today. We moved to a new system. By the way, if you hear our dog barking in the background, it's because it's just my son and I at home, and he's in the studio. We'll have him grab him and just maybe cuddle with the guy. Andy's not able to do anything right now because as much as we tested everything and got everything set up to work, and it was working as of 30 minutes before the show started, or is scheduled to start, now we can't. We lost one thing, finally got that fixed, and then lost the big part. Again, we literally shut down computers, brought them back up, tested it again. It worked fine until we needed it to work. Now it's not working. If you got questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. You can email us, hoopsville at D3sports.com. You can also join us on Facebook, facebook.com/Hoopsville, where we're live simulcasting the show. Also live simulcasting the show on YouTube, youtube.com/D3Hoopsville. We'll try and keep a track of everybody and where they are and all of that jazz throughout the night, and wherever you might be watching. If you got comments, let us know. We'll do our best to stay up and in touch with you along the way. Let's talk about the guests we'll have on tonight, and literally we're going to be taking a break here momentarily to get to them. We'll start, a reminder, we're now, if you're a fan of this show, we used to do a breakdown on Thursdays of the, let's see if I remember this correctly, East Mid-Atlantic, Great Lakes, and kind of the West region. So now we'll do that, but it's regions 3, 5, 7, and then 9, 10 combined. And so that means tonight we'll hear from Augsburg men's basketball coach Aaron Griess to join us ahead of their big St. John's game. Of course, Augsburg is on top of the conference along with St. John's. We'll switch to the MIAA out of the Great Lakes region, or Region 7 for those who are getting used to the new setup. Albion women's basketball is actually on top of the MIA conference with Hope and Trine lurking behind. We'll talk to Doreen Carden about the women's program. Then we'll switch into the Old Mid-Atlantic, which is Region 5. Eastern men's basketball coach Dan Pruser would join us to talk about how Eagles are flying real high. Then we'll jump up into the Old East, which is now Region 3. That is Utica women's basketball coach Michelle Davis. We'll talk about her undefeated team and a squad that's on top of the Empire 8. And basically, Utica having its best season ever. So we'll talk to her about all of that. And then we debut our top 25 double take on the women's side. Gordon Mann and Riley Zayas. Riley, I hope I said your last name correct. Will join us here on the show to give their takes on a debatable team, a dubious team, and a deep dive team. It's all ahead here on Hoopsville. I would love to tell you right now we would take a break and give you a brand new look at how we're doing commercial breaks, which would take a little bit of editing on the podcast side, but nonetheless, we can certainly make that work. But unfortunately, again, all of our bells and whistles decided not to work today. So it's the same old here from us on Hoopsville. Maybe halfway through the show, we figure it out. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the NABC studios. I want to thank our partners at Blue Frame Technology and, of course, the WBCA. Back with more after this, including Tucker.
College basketball lives in Kansas City at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center. The College Basketball Experience is the place to get your game on. It's not a museum, it's an experience you won't forget. Discover the history of the game in the National Collegiate Basketball Hall of Fame, featuring the Gallery of Honor, Mentor's Circle, and Honor Theater. Suit up in the latest CBE logoed Nike gear at the CBE Hoop Shop. Elevate your game today and visit the house that college basketball built.
Why NCAA Division III teamed up with Special Olympics. and in giving the gift of sport to those for whom it seemed an impossible dream, we are working to make this a better world.
Help us keep that dream alive.
You can make a difference.
I did receive a non-athletic scholarship upon entering school.
I got the presidential scholarship, which was huge for me.
I think there's more opportunities for academic scholarships in Division III.
I did receive academic scholarships. Just being involved on campus, being a leader, all those things combined kind of get me recognized. It's a great experience for me.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at d3hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. A little bit disjointed at the start, but we'll go from the rest of the way as scheduled. If you got questions, again, you can email us, hoopsville at d3sports.com. You can email us. That's it, hoopsville at d3sports.com. You can tweet us at d3hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Despite the problems with the computer, Andy's still watching that. So we have him doing a little bit of work, and if there's something that I need my attention on, he'll jump on that for me. We'll also talk, you can also get us on Instagram at D3Hoopsville, though we don't monitor the show there. We're also on Facebook, facebook.com/Hoopsville, and YouTube, youtube.com/Hoopsville. The last two, we're live simulcasting the show. When you look around, at this point in time, I always like looking around the country to find teams who are not talking about or haven't gotten a lot of attention or maybe have snuck past us, maybe not getting a lot of top 25 attention despite having what looks to be pretty solid starts to the season. Of course, we're at the halfway point for everybody at this point in terms of the 25-game schedule, not talking conference playoffs. And everybody on tonight's show has 2 losses or none. Everybody's on top of their conference, and they're not really getting top 25 attention. Maybe that's a fault of my own on the men's side. Well, who knows? There's a lot of teams to try and consider. Well, if you look at the MIAC, yes, St. Thomas is gone. I think a lot of people thought St. John's would be kind of in the conversation, as it were, but they kind of stubbed their toe coming out of the gate. We're 2-2, though they've won a lot since, and they've got a big game against a team that's actually kind of on top of the conference with them. Augsburg, who's also 11-2, 8-0 in conference play. Well, I want to talk to Augsburg. Nothing against St. John's. It's just a different conversation. So joining us on the Blue Frame Technology Hoopsville hotline, it's the head coach of the Augsburg Augies. It's Aaron Griess. Coach, thanks so much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. It's my pleasure. You talk to Pat all the time. I mean, let's get some new blood in here. I'm glad to take that chair.
Sir, you preach the truth. You absolutely preach the truth. First and foremost, 11-2 start. In some ways, I feel like you snuck under the radar because I think, to be honest, St. Thomas left. No one's watching the Tommies anymore. St. John's is where everybody thought things were going to be in the conference, despite the fact the last few years, the conference has certainly shown it's deeper than just the top 2. But why do you think you guys have been under the radar at 11-2 and 8-0 in conference play?
Yeah, well, I don't mind being under the radar to start off. Under the radar is kind of where I like to live anyway. Why are we perceived that way? I don't know, because if you look back at the last decade, we're up there at the top with St. John's and St. Thomas in terms of overall record. So we've been there for a while, but we're perfectly content being where we are right now. And St. John's is the top of the league. They are. I mean, they're a really good team, and everybody else is trying to compete with them. And we're just one of those crew of teams that are in that group that's trying to put our best foot forward every night. And we've been fortunate. We've got a really good group, and we've been fortunate in these first games and have shot the ball really well. So yeah, sure. We'll take that underdog role.
Yeah, sure. I had a feeling you might embrace that. No problem with that, right?
I came from Chaminade. Why wouldn't I embrace the underdog role, Dave?
There you go. Started the season with a win over Crown, then lost to La Crosse after having the game against River Falls postponed early on. Lost it by 1, though, to La Crosse. It was certainly a battle in La Crosse. Really good team. I've got them in my top 10. then got into conference play, because if it's the MIAC, you're going to get into conference play whether you're ready or not, and before Thanksgiving. Hamlin, Bethel, St. Scholastica, Carleton, Gustavus Adolphus, and St. Olaf, all victories. And then you tried to play River Falls again, and then tried to play River Falls again, and finally got that game, and they tripped you guys up. Unfortunately, you were supposed to play Stevenson down in Daytona Beach. This is for everybody who doesn't know your schedule. Then did get a game in against Rhodes and DePaul before returning home and getting back into conference play. We'll get back to that in a minute. First off, River Falls is definitely a thorn in your side, not only because they beat you, but because you tried to play them 3 times. That feels like a synopsis of the season.
Yeah, I mean, everything is, you have to be ready at a minute's notice to play, and you have to be flexible. And these days, kind of oddly enough, the second time, or was it the first? I can't remember. It was the second time. The second time that game got postponed because of wind. I've never had that before, and I've been coaching for a long time, but it got postponed because of wind. And then we go over there and they flat out played us. And there's no two ways about it. They played better than we did that night. That was we were leaving for Daytona the next day, and guys are ready to get on that plane, and not throwing excuses out there, because they kicked our tails, and it was a game for them.
No. And listen, you kind of hit the nail on the head a little bit there. First, obviously the oddity of wind. And I mean, nowadays you'll take a game for wind versus COVID. And then obviously trying to find a spot where you can play it, wherever you can play it, even if it has to be the day before you're heading off to Florida. It kind of all comes together to some degree into why or how flexible you need to be as a team. And to some degree, does that almost help to have those kinds of distractions to keep everyone from focusing too much on the game at hand? And I mean that in the sense that you don't overthink the games.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. We kind of subscribe to the theory of improvise, adapt, and overcome. And there's going to be challenges, especially at the Division III level. I mean, who knows when there's schedule changes in your own gym, and, we have one gym and we have to change this or change that, change the time, or somebody has a night class, and we're well-versed in being adaptable and flexible to things like that and game times. And, especially in these last 2 years with COVID, when, you could find out the day before that you're without 2 of your starters, and you have to find a way to adjust to that and put your best effort out there on the floor. And I think we're comfortable with that. And I think we've been doing that pretty well.
You did get back into conference play, as we said, on the other side of the new year. You didn't play until the 8th of January, and that's looking at our schedule. I'm not looking at yours. I probably should look at yours, because I had a feeling you had other games, I think, in there, right, before the 8th, or was that actually when you were supposed to start up?
We had a bye on the first conference play date. So yeah, we were scheduled to start on the 8th.
So you had the 8th. You got a nice win over McAllister. Then you had the St. Mary's game. Now it says canceled. I want to come back to that in a minute. And then you played Concordia Moorhead, and obviously St. John's ahead. First off, you once again dealing with another game that couldn't get played, this time because of COVID. Interestingly enough, I believe it was just today, the MIAC came out and announced that the forfeit rule is now not the forfeit rule. So no one's going to be punished per se in conference standings. It has nothing to do with overall record. But do you get a chance now to try and play that game anyway? Are you going to be able to make that game up, or is this just too jammed the schedule, even now after the fact, to try and make it up?
That's the $1 million question. And I think the theory is that we could make that game up if both sides agree to play the game. And it's on both schools to agree to play that game.
Right.
And, I think in some instances there will be games made up, in other instances there won't be games made up. And we don't have much control over that. I know every league has a different philosophy about reschedules and how to go about that. And ours, for the last 2 years, because we dealt with this last year as well, it's just up to the 2 coaches to try to figure out, if there is a date that will work for them. The problem is, because as you well know, Dave, we have a 20-game league schedule, and we have limited weeks to do it. So now if we're going to make up these games Monday, Mondays if there's an open Monday, that's the time. And so then you're going to be playing Monday, Wednesday, Saturday on back-to-back weeks in order to make up these games. So it can be a challenge. It's definitely going to be a challenge to make them up. I mean, we could schedule, because every conference is having these issues with COVID. I mean, we could schedule lacrosse again. We could go play Oshkosh. We could go down to the Iowa conference because, in my opinion, we're going to need those games. Like, we need games and we need good opponents. And so for us, we're looking at it as an opportunity to improve our strength of schedule.
Well, and as you said, right, the strength of schedule is key here because, again, you're down to 5 games non-conference just because of the conference schedule. But more importantly, you already lost at least one because of Stevenson being pulled off your schedule. Well, we don't need to go into the details, but obviously I guess, did you make it up? My question is, yes, you don't have a lot of games. You lose conference games. If you're not going to make them up, obviously you want to go play some non-conference because your conference SOS isn't going to do a lot for you when you play that many games.
No question.
So, but are you dependent on the conference loss of games, or do you have any still in your pocket?
Well, we have one game open right now because even though we lost the Stevenson game, we got that switched around to Rhodes.
Okay.
So we still played 2 down in Daytona, Rhodes and DePaul. Now we're just short 1 game. So if we don't end up rescheduling the St. Mary's, we'll be in the market and probably on social media trying to find another team to play us. Hopefully someone in our region who's regionally ranked.
Christopher Newport, they might be looking for games. Yeshiva. Oh, wait, they're not in your region. That might be a little harder. Hey, let's talk about the team. First off, huge roster. Not surprising to some degree coming out of COVID to see a lot of teams with rosters. Granted, you're an institution that I don't mean to make it as a lower point, but you're not cheap. So obviously making strong decisions to come and play with you guys. So you got a lot of players, and to some degree, you've got a lot of players with a really good core unit coming back. You've got some tremendous players, and I know that's why I've had you on my radar the entire season. But when you've got guys, I'm trying to find the right word. It's funny because you look at your stats, nobody jumps off the table. No one comes roaring off. They're like, oh my God, you got to stop him because he scores 20 points a game and grabs 7 rebounds and hands out 8 assists. You don't have anybody necessarily like that.
You might have missed Joe Palmer. He's
okay. So there was Joe Palmer. I was trying to move past Joe Palmer.
Yep.
Obviously Palmer's there, but is everybody, you have Palmer. What I'm trying to get at is you've got everybody else. You've got this roster that allows you to almost miss Palmer, and not in a way that I'm watching the game and I don't see Palmer. It's like, go ahead, pick your poison. You've got Palmer, and remember how good he is. But there's guys who are going to still pour in their 15, 20, 25 points on top of that.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
Sorry, long way of getting to that question.
Yeah, no, that's okay. We, for a long time now, leading up to this season, we've known our guard core is among the best in the region. We have, a 2-time all-conference point guard returning. He's in taking master's classes with his COVID year. We have a Division I transfer at the 2 guard, and another senior who's been in our program for 4 years at the guard. And then we have Joe Palmer at the 4, who's actually a guard, so we're playing 4 guards. And that core of guys is they're veterans. And we all know you win with veterans.
Yeah.
And they can all shoot the ball, and they're all like really, really skilled. And and so we're really tough to guard. Schematically, our offensively, we're really tough. They can all shoot it. They can all drive it. They're willing passers, and they know each other because they've been around each other for a while. So I really, really like that guard group that I have. And that's not to mention, and it's not to lessen what we have at the 4 and the 5, because we have 2 5s that we play pretty much equal minutes that are really good too. And they can score inside. Both of them can shoot a little bit out on the perimeter. They're doing a great job on the glass this year. So yeah, I can't say enough how much I like my roster, not just from a skill standpoint, but these guys from day one, like they get along. They're fun. They're fun to be in the gym with. And that is a big reason why we're off to this start, because they enjoy being in the gym. They enjoy being together. They enjoy being on the road, in the airplane, at the hotel. Like they get along, and that cohesiveness is, I think, a big piece of why we're at where we're at right now.
Yeah, I was trying to have a little fun with the fact that Joe Palmer is a freshman and scoring all those points, and so you didn't have anybody. I kind of missed the boat overthinking that one. But yeah, Joe Palmer, what I wanted to get with him was he's coming in, quote unquote, as a first-year freshman and scoring these points and putting up the numbers of nearly 10 rebounds. I think he's third on the team in assists, pretty high up in steals as well. He's obviously a linchpin, but as a freshman, your advantage is that conference doesn't know him very well.
You might be looking at his brother, John, who's a freshman. Joe's a junior.
Oh, is he? I apologize.
That's okay. No, that's okay. That's okay. Yeah, he's leading.
Oh, yeah, I did. I totally wrote that down wrong. You're right. I apologize.
Rebounding, and his brother's going to be a good player too. So shout out John Palmer as well. But yeah, Joe's been around for a little bit, and he's just gotten better and better every year. And his game is pretty similar to a player that we had a couple years ago, Booker Copeland. And,
reminds me a lot of Copeland.
Yep.
Even looks like Copeland.
He does. He does. So it's always nice to have a player like that in your program.
Yeah, sorry. I literally wrote down freshman, and I should have known better. We're having a great time here. Technical glitches, calling guys freshmen who are juniors. We're off to a roaring start. It is the 13th. It's just not a Friday. What I find interesting about you guys, too, is, and you go back to the schedule, and I'm curious how this works out for you guys. A lot of games pretty similar. In the 80s, sometimes 90s. I would call it an average, not average scoring, but, good scoring game, not overly scoring. You don't have a lot of low scoring games. You don't get trapped necessarily by another team. Hamlin's about the exception that you played you to a 69-66 game. Otherwise, you're scoring in the 90s. Lacrosse got you and held you in the 70s, but even, and River Falls. So literally we're talking 2-year losses in one game that got you out of it. Otherwise, you are a really consistent group. Is that a testament to your defense, or is that a testament to your offense?
It's a testament to our offense.
Okay.
If we're not scoring in the high 70s and the 80s, we're probably in trouble. We do enough different things defensively to kind of keep some people off guard, but we are playing a smaller lineup. When we play bigger teams like St. John's is, sometimes they give us a little bit of trouble. Teams like that, River Falls was that way. They really hurt us inside. But we want to transition. We want to push that ball after made or missed baskets and get it up the floor as quickly as we can, and take advantage of what we do well, which is shoot the three. I mean, we shoot a lot of threes and we make a lot of threes. And if we're going to continue to do well, we have to do that at a high rate.
You average about 12 attempts per contest? Is that right?
Three. I believe, I could be mistaken, but I think we're averaging about 21 attempts.
Yeah, no, I did math off the top of my head, and I shouldn't have done that on top of everything else I should have been doing tonight. About 20 attempts a game, and you're making at a clip of 35%. I'm curious, analytically, is that a number you want, 35%?
We'd like a little higher than that.
Yeah.
It's solid, but we're, when we have guys that can also get to the rim, I mean, I think it's because in transition, we're getting into one-on-one situations, and that's kind of where our skill set lies.
You talk about getting into transition. You talk about maybe the inside game a little bit. You look at your roster, you have a whole wealth of 6-footers. But you don't, you got what? Bradley Winter as a junior is 6'7". You got Alex Fisher as 6'7". Sam Olsen at 6'6". But that, if I'm not mistaken, I forgot Will Schmidt, of course, at 6'6". But that's it, to be honest. And I'm kind of just using that as a rudimentary barometer. You've got 4 guys of quote-unquote size. As you said, you're playing 4 guards. You're almost on the little small side. So how is the inside game working? And when I looked at the rebounding numbers, you're kind of toe-to-toe with your opponents. You're not getting out-rebounded by that much.
Yeah, size has always been to me. It's not as much about the size; it's more about the skill and your intelligence on the floor. And you can make up for a lot of faults by just being a smart player out there, and being aggressive. So Joe Palmer, when he's at his best, he's gobbling. He got 16 rebounds last night. He was all over the glass. 16, and it seemed like 25 to me. He was all over the glass, much like Booker was when he was playing.
Yeah.
And the two post players are both averaging around 6-7 rebounds a game in about 20 minutes a game. And our point guard rebounds well. And it's obviously something that we need to work on. And we're cognizant coming into the year that the glass was going to be something that we really needed to focus on because of our size. But so what we always do is that we look, all right, where are our strengths and where are our advantages? And we try to highlight those as much as possible. So if we're going to be small, if we have small and skilled guys, well, we're going to put people in space and try to use what we have. We have speed, we have quickness, we have skill, we have guys who can shoot the ball, we have guys who can get to the rim. So we're going to space the floor and be tough to guard out on the perimeter. And the posts are going to take advantage of that in a lot of different ways. Those posts can shoot it. So those posts will space the floor wide, and which opens up the basket for penetration. And so again, all we're doing, we're not really concerned with, do we have 6'8", 6'9", 6'10"? Do we have 4 of them? Yeah, sure, it'd be great. But you know what? We don't. So what do we have? We have skilled perimeter players. We have guys who can shoot the ball. So let's put them in space and figure out how we can be the best we can be.
Heard a coach last week or a last show say, hey, we shoot a lot of threes and we know the rebound's coming out to about 8 feet.
Yeah.
Similar?
Absolutely. That's exactly right. And we want more possessions. We don't want to slow down. We want as many possessions as we can get. I mean, we'd like to get up 73, 74 possessions in a game.
It's a lot.
And it is a lot. I think we're averaging 72 right now. We'd like to get up there a little bit higher. So we're trying to increase that tempo as much as we can.
Obviously, big game coming up. Should it be played? And I say that seriously. Weather too, by the way. Who knows? You got St. John's coming up. Obviously a big game for multiple reasons. How do you overthink it to some degree because it's the first time you two will face off and not face off again until February 12th? Or do you take what you have and win or lose, just move on from it? I'm literally trying to understand, is it a big game for you guys or is the big game later?
Well, this is going to sound cliche, but I mean, we try to make every game a big game. This clearly has gotten a lot of attention. People have been talking about this game around these parts for a week or maybe 2 weeks because, it was kind of lining up where if things went the way people expected, then both of us were going to be undefeated in the league headed into this weekend. And so there's been a lot of attention on this game. And yes, it is a big game because somebody's going to be in the driver's seat, moving forward. But you also have to remember that, we're halfway, this will be halfway through the conference. And it's not like we're the only 2 teams in the conference. There's some other very, very good teams in this conference. And, with Carleton and Gustavus and St. Olaf and Bethel, like they're all good, solid teams. And that's the beauty of this league is that on any given night, and it's every league probably, but on any given night, you can get beat. And that goes for us. It goes for St. John's, Gustavus. I mean, it's a competitive league. And so we're just trying to do the best we can to focus every single night and put our best effort out every single night. And, our guys are excited about this game. I'm sure St. John's is excited about this game. They're a terrific team, very well coached, and we're going to have to be really good to win the game.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. We should point out that game is at their place, so you'll get the return in your third to last regular season game. Actually, your last home game will be St. John's. So, big game for you guys coming up, but obviously another big one coming up in February. But you also have to play in between them. So how do you make sure that the next game's not your trap against St. Scholastica?
Yeah, I really don't. With this group of guys, I really don't think that that's going to be a problem. I really don't, because I think we have enough veterans around that have been through this league for 3 and 4 years that know how it goes. And they've been in enough close games to know that, you have to compete every single night, and you got to put your best effort out every single night, or you're going to get beat. It's not one of those deals where you can show up and just say, we're going to show up tonight and things are going to go our way and we're going to win. That's not how it goes. And with a young group of guys, I'd be more concerned about that. We don't have a young group of guys. These guys are veterans. They've been through it before. Our senior point guard won, the conference playoff, went to the NCAA tournament his freshman year. And so they understand what's at stake and how we go about it. And the fact of the matter is that Saturday's game is one game out of 20. Well, now 19 for us, but it's one game out of the conference schedule. So you take it for what it's worth.
Well, Coach, I appreciate you coming on. Sorry for the absolute chaos there a little bit, but do me a favor if you could. I wouldn't mind if you actually started and told John to play like Joe once in a while, just to mess with your opponents.
Right.
Call it the Hoopsville special, call it the Days Absent-Minded, whatever you want to call it. Just try it. See, I feel like I'm onto something.
I think you are onto something. I think John could do it for sure. He'll tell you he could.
Of course he could. He's 4 inches shorter, but I wish him all the luck in the world.
That's right. That's right.
Hey, thanks for humoring me, especially my chaotic brain tonight. I appreciate you taking the time and coming on. Good luck coming up, not just Saturday, but throughout the rest of the season. Stay safe and healthy, obviously. We always give the guests, though, the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who may be tuned in?
Well, I just want to share that I appreciate you. And I appreciate D3 Hoops, you and Pat, for doing what you do, because you do Division III basketball a great service, and we really appreciate you.
Well, thanks. After this interview, I don't know if you appreciate me as much as you say you do, but I appreciate it nonetheless. Take care of yourself. Thanks for the time, and we'll look forward to talking to you down the road. Sounds good. Aaron Griess joining us from Augsburg. It's not Augustana like I called them during a D3Hoops.com Classic once. Don, that one's for you. But apparently I got John and Joe mixed up. To tell you the truth, I never thought I would make that mistake, so I didn't think about it, and I probably should have. I should have written myself a note to remind myself that there's brothers with numbers 4 and number 5 that could easily get confused when looking at your notes. So I did that. We'll take a break. When we come back, we will talk women's basketball. We'll talk to another school that starts with the letter A, Albion women's basketball. Doreen Carden will join us, talk about how her team is up in the mix in the MIAA. Oh, by the way, while they're tied for the lead, you know what their next 2 games are, or who their next 2 games are against? Hope and Trine. We'll talk to Albion about that big battle coming up. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com. Back with more after this.
My name is Marcus Walker. I was All-State, won a state championship, a high school All-American, and played college and pro ball. I played because I love the game. I grind to be the best. I sweat because I put in work. I'm strong because I believe. When I want to bring it before game time, I come to the house that college basketball built, the CBE. No matter your skill, take it to another level. Elevate your game right here at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
In any way that we can.
To get a friend home safe.
To never blame the victim.
It's on us.
To stand up.
To make our community safe for all.
It's on us.
It's on us to look out for each other at parties.
It's on us.
To be more than just a bystander.
To step up and say something.
It's on us, all of us.
To stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
Football has taught me a lot throughout my life. It's definitely had a huge imprint on who I am as a person. Competing at a Division III level created that opportunity for me to go to college. Not only was I the first one in my family to graduate college, but I was really the first one to even go. Being the first one, I'm breaking that cycle, and now that I've graduated, I'm not sure what's the next step, but I know I have a lot of doors open. And a lot of those are open because I played football and ran track here at Otterbein.
There are over 480,000 college athletes. Only 2% would go pro. That means over 470,000 will not get a shoe contract. No autographs. No private jets. No fan clubs. No Hall of Fame inductions. Instead, they will walk away with something much more valuable.
Sorry, folks, working on the gremlins here. Whoa, all of a sudden the audio got sky high for me. This system's a little wonky tonight. We're going to have to figure it out. Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Hope you're enjoying the show. Wow, the audio's way high. Hold on. Hope you can hear it okay now. Trying to lower the audio. There we go. It's a little bit better. We're working on it. It was one way, and one way the next. We're having a weird gremlin tonight. Anyway, the good news is next commercial break, just a heads up, we're going to actually pause the broadcast because it looks like our system is working and switch systems. If it doesn't work, we'll get it back started. Don't worry. So just bear with us. It's going to pause for a bit and then we'll come back. You're listening to Hoopsville and we're going to keep moving along. Women's basketball. I was looking through some teams in the old Great Lakes region and was startled, and I do mean that genuinely, startled to find that there was a tie in the MIAA that I was not expecting. That's because on the women's side of things, it's not just Hope, it's not just Trine playing well. Albion is having a tremendous season. Now, I did this a little bit on purpose. Their next two games are Hope and Trine. Yeah, so maybe I'm being a little unfair to everybody involved, but I figured I'd take advantage of the opportunity while I had it. Joining us on the Blue Frame Technology Hoopsville Hotline, it's the head coach of the Albion women's basketball program. It is Doreen Carden. Coach, thanks for joining the program. How are you?
Good. How are you? Can you hear me okay?
I can. I finally figured out where my mute button was.
Okay, great.
Folks, behind the scenes, we couldn't hear each other, but I could see the little lights bouncing, so I knew she was there. First and foremost, congratulations on what is a tremendous season here, because while Hope and Trine are getting all the attention, guess who's all of a sudden at the top? It's you guys.
Well, I appreciate that. But that's okay.
I don't mean this disparagingly, but were you expecting to be in this spot at this point in the year?
Good question. I mean, honestly, going into this year, I didn't know what to expect. You know, last year with COVID, as we all know, was just not a good year for everybody. And, you know, we have a lot of young kids, and it was just kind of not a great experience for them just because it wasn't a regular season. We only, played 14 games. So I wasn't sure, what to expect. We lost our leading scorer due to graduation this year. So, yeah, to be 13-2 and 6-0 in conference, I'm pretty happy.
Yeah, no, not too shabby, as they say.
Yeah.
What's been the magic sauce, as it were? I look at the schedule. Wins over Denison and Kenyon, and win over Heidelberg. John Carroll, not surprisingly, tripped you up. Got a win over Case Western. Yep. St. Mary's, actually the rest of the way. Otterbein did trip you up on the 30th of December. But what's been the secret in the sauce? What has worked so well for the Brits right now?
I mean, honestly, I think this year, well, I know COVID's still going on, but just the chemistry, this year we're actually allowed to hang out with each other and, talk to each other. Last year we were so secluded and we couldn't do anything as a team. And kids didn't really know each other. And honestly, like the whole team chemistry this year, like I said, being around each other, hanging out, the team bonding, I mean, it's really helped. So, if anyone ever says, team chemistry is not important, that's totally false. It's because it's like night and day difference from last year to this year. So I definitely think that helps. And we've got a lot of kids, we're doing a good job of sharing the basketball this year, not kind of relying on one. Rain hit was really good for us last year. We were kind of one-dimensional. So I think that's a big difference for us as well.
Chemistry. You're not. I wouldn't say you're you are the first to mention it on the show, but you're probably not the first who was thinking that. Just hasn't mentioned it, because I have heard off the air or just with casual conversations the difference in full practices and not segmented practices, and players getting to hang out, as you say. There's risk with that, certainly. You gotta still kind of weigh and balance things. But from what I'm seeing, so far no games have been called off. You guys are doing well. Just 2 losses on the season. Wins over Calvin can certainly spring eternal, as it were. Things seem to be going right.
Yeah, knock on wood.
Right. Now
we haven't had any. Yeah, you probably did. But yeah, our league's starting to have teams cancel and makeups and all that. But we've been on the plus side lucky that we haven't as of yet. So that's a good thing. But we're also on break still. So our student athletes all aren't back yet. So that definitely helps us. We're not back until the 24th, so we've got a while still.
Yeah, I thought of that. We were going to cover at the beginning of the show. Just need to get to it. We'll get to it later. Just the worry of those more students coming back and how that may play out. Looking at the roster, it's. You've got a wealth of experience, as you said, especially after coming back from last year. Whole mess of juniors and very few seniors. It's certainly got that elder statesman perspective to it. Is it all about those older players, or are there younger players who are also mixing in and becoming key?
I think it's a little bit of both. A lot of the younger kids, like I said last year, they played a lot as freshmen, or a little bit, but their roles have totally changed, and I think they've really embraced it and accepted it. And like I said, last year, I felt like we were so one-dimensional with getting the ball inside, and I think we're giving these other kids opportunity to, do their thing, and they really stepped up and showed. But we do have a massive juniors, like you said. Elena Welker is one of them, who's an all-league kid for us and played a lot for us. That core with Becca Ross and Angelina Mendieta, all of them have been around and saw a lot of minutes. So I think it's a little bit of mixture of both, to be honest with you.
Interesting. You're top 5 in scoring. I consider all in double figures only because I give the benefit of the doubt for anybody with 9 points or more, and I should say 4 or 5 players. I am right there. 9.5 points for Riley Davis, for example, and 9.5 points for Becca Ross, and then 10 points for Little, 10 points for Reed. There are 11 points, I should say, for Reed, 11 points for Welker, and it's a mix of sophomores and juniors because you've got I think 3 sophomores in that group and 2 juniors. So it's kind of that balancing act. And what's scary is that group should keep returning for you as well, but. How is the balancing act? Because you also play a lot of players.
Yeah, we have a lot of bigs, and we only use one at a time. And they're all sophomores. We have 1 junior, and a freshman in the mix too. So, it's tough to play a lot of those kids, especially in that spot. Guard wise, it's nice because with our offense, we're giving everybody a lot of opportunity. And they always need to be ready because now with COVID, you never know who's going to be out, when it's your time to step up. But we do a good job of shuffling them in and out, and it's nice to have a little bit more depth on the perimeter.
Yeah, well, depth is always a good thing. Out of COVID, a lot of teams are experiencing depth, as it were. When you look at the schedule, how has it prepared you for conference play? Obviously, John Carroll tells a lot of us that, all right, you know you got hope, you got trying, but how's the rest of this group, are these games kind of gotten you ready?
Yeah, when you schedule, especially with tournaments, you never know who's going to be in it.
Right.
But yeah, the John Carroll game for us, and it's nice to try to schedule AC teams, but we were really good that game, and it was early in the season, and that fourth quarter kind of hit us, and obviously they have 2, I think, of their 5th years, and one's a 5th year, well, maybe one's a senior, but they kind of stepped up and carried them at the end. And Otterbein again was another tough loss after break, but they were super fast, and they played hard, and so I think that's definitely going to prepare us when we see hope and trying in the next 2 games.
You had a win, I should say, against Calvin, though it was a tight one. Yeah. 67-65. Outside of the 2 losses, that's pretty much the closest game that you've had this season. But that's a significant win. If we're not talking hope and trying, Calvin is kind of in that conversation or in that mix. You got to feel good winning that game ahead of what you've got ahead of you now.
Yeah, for sure. That was a huge win for us. I know both of us were kind of battling a little bit with COVID, that game coming back after a break. Yeah, they had some big wins and really good. So that was a really, really good win for us. And we were up pretty big throughout that whole game. We had a bad fourth quarter, but found a way to finish. So yeah, that was really big for us. I was happy to at least come away with a win against them because we didn't play them last year due to COVID. We postponed.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I forgot about that.
So we haven't seen them in a year.
Well, I mean, you've seen them now. Not to hide the fact, but you do have hope in trying ahead. And I remember when I thought about booking you guys, and then when I kind of did, I thought to myself, am I doing a disservice here? Is this really fair ahead of 2 monster games? But to some degree, I wanted to know about you guys now before you played those games. And God forbid get you later and you're like, well, we were this. Or it goes great and we look like we're geniuses because we got you ahead of the curve. How do you prepare for hope and trying? Because the schedulers must have hated you to schedule these 2 games back to back at this point in the season. And oh, by the way, you'll do it again within weeks. How do you get ready for these 2 big games against number 1 Hope, number 6 Trine?
Yeah, it was. I was going to say it does get better because you're right. We play next 6 games. We play them 4 times.
Right.
Yeah, so it's kind of crazy, but I mean it's hard. You kind of. Our kids know what to expect. We've seen them last year. A lot of their kids are back. Our kids are back. We know where they're at, and I mean it's just hard. We got to kind of go with our game plan. We know what we need to focus on. Going into Hope, it's we got to rebound. We got to make sure we take care of the ball. They're totally 2 different teams too as far as styles defensively. I mean, Hope is, their defense is so unorthodox. It's just all out, and you kind of can't really run your offense against it. And then you see Trine, and it's their defense is really, really good too, but it's like totally different. So the next 2 games are going to be totally different for us preparing. But I mean, we know we need to stay within ourselves. We need to make sure we play, really good basketball and sound basketball. You can't make a lot of mistakes and get down early against, them too, because it's really hard to come back.
Yeah, fair point. Yeah. No, that's fair. Now you'll be at Hope and then at home against Trine. You have Adrian and Olivet split, then you're home against Hope, and then on the road against Trine.
Yeah.
Not to
That's good.
Yeah.
At least we're not both on the road.
Right. That's a good point. Though not to overplay it, but to some degree, the bellwether or the crux of the season really plays out in the next 6, doesn't it?
It does. But, we can only control what we can control. Obviously, we can't control the schedule. So, like I said, we got to go 1 game at a time and, worry about the game on Saturday and, compete and give ourselves a chance to win that game. And then, worry about that next Wednesday, and still, going into that next week against Adrian and all that, we still got to play everybody else again, and we got to, worry about them because, once you get in league and conference, everybody wants to beat up on everybody, so you never know. So we just always got to be ready.
And of course, COVID could play a role here. You talked about with the Calvin game not being at 100%. You look at your stats and you can tell where people may have been missing time. It's true with everybody. I'm seeing it across the board. Not that you ever hope for ill will, but you do hope you're at 100%. And if something has to go sideways, it's the other opponent. But to some degree, you want their best, don't you? So you want them at 100%.
Yeah, for sure. Because you never, and I don't know if people would use that as an excuse, but that's why everybody always needs to be ready. Because you can't use that stuff as an excuse. You do want to beat and play people at 100% so they can't say, hey, we didn't have so-and-so. So, it's always tough. But like I said, it is what it is. We're just, again, happy and excited for the opportunity and the challenge, obviously.
This is a team that I feel like has been a little under the radar in the MIAA because of Hope, because of Trine, to some degree because of Calvin. You haven't had all that bad seasons. 2017, 18-8. 2018, 18-8. Oh, by the way, 2019, 18-8. Mm-hmm. 2020 was a 21-6 season, and you're 12-4 in the MIAA. This is a program that's been very consistent and has been there. You just haven't been able to get kind of to the top and into the limelight, as it were. Is this the year, or is it building still, and maybe it's next year, the year after, that you guys like fully break through?
Good question. We'll find out, right?
Fair, yeah, fair.
But honestly, I'm excited about our team. I mean, I feel like we've got a lot of young kids. We can get some other kids in, and we can continue to keep building. Like you said, we've been pretty solid. This is my 21st year, so
yeah.
We've had some good years, and it's tough playing teams like I hope and trying. We only play them twice, but we'll probably see again, a third time. So the year that we were 21-6, 5 of those losses were to 2 teams that were top 25 or top 10 probably at that time. So we do have a difficult schedule. Our league's pretty competitive, as you can see. But I'm hoping this is hopefully a year for us, and if not, we just build off of it, because I honestly do think. There's talks about getting a new facility in the future, so I definitely think that's going to help us, because I think, the Hopes and the Trines and the Calvins, that's big. The facilities are really nice, and I think that will draw kids. So if we can keep, building and just kind of, like you said, getting over that hump, we're just right there. We gotta beat one of those teams to get us there. And for our kids to actually understand and realize that there's more to it than just, conference. There's a tournament, and, when you get there, it's fun. So I think that's what we need to get to. We just got to kind of break out, like you said, and win one of those.
Overall picture, looking at Jody May's program, looking at yours, we don't have to go that far back to see 500 or below 500 seasons. Albion, if no one's familiar, is very centric around athletics, almost excessively so. Your president is all about making sure that there's plenty of sports programs, that it can help with retention, it can help with recruitment, it can help with bringing in more students. But it feels like instead of just there being more sports, there's also seems to maybe be a change in the competitiveness. What has changed outside of just the support, obviously, of upper administration? But something else must have changed, that now you all are so much more competitive than you were when you were just about having a lot of sports.
I don't know. Maybe it's just the coaches. Obviously we're pretty competitive people. We want to win. It's we just take pride in that, a lot of us. We all want to win. We want to be successful, and I think our coaches do a great job of working hard and getting out and getting kids to be better. So it's not only the administration, but I think us as a whole and a department, have a lot of pride in Albion, and like I said, we want to win. I think it's a lot of hard work, and I think it starts, with the whole department and everybody on staff. And I think as the coaches, like I said, we're pretty competitive people.
Has recruiting changed? Are you now getting students that you hadn't been getting in the past?
Every year it's different. You know what I mean? It just depends, I guess. Competing with, like the Hopes and the Trines. We all kind of try to get the same kids, but maybe we've kind of gone a little bit different way, having our own little niche here and there. But we're still trying to do the same thing that we've always done. It's just I don't know if there's really any right way in recruiting.
Well, I just mean have you noticed students that you maybe weren't getting 6 years ago, now you're starting to get?
Yes, I can say that.
Okay. Yeah, that's why I was curious. I wonder if something changed that allowed those students to go, you know what? No, Albion is the choice I want now.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I think it's just, it is. We're just going out in different areas too and trying to get, kids, winning definitely helps, kids want to be part of those programs.
And obviously, win against Hope and a win against Triumph or a win against both would do wonders too. But I don't want to put too much pressure on you, Coach.
That's okay. No pressure at all.
Hey, I appreciate the time. Thanks so much. Sorry for the little bit of the delay and a little bit of the rush, but I appreciate you giving us a little bit of the insight of this team. Obviously, a tremendous season, and obviously, big couple of games coming up, but I appreciate you coming on and at least talking about them. As always, we give the guests the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those tuned in?
No, again, I appreciate you. I thank you for allowing me to, get some recognition and get Albion basketball back out there. And recognizing, what we've done so far this year. And thank you again, what you do for Division III and all our athletes. So appreciate it.
Well, thanks, Coach. I appreciate you being so kind. Good luck on the recruiting trail. We'll look forward to the games coming up starting on Saturday. And above all, enjoy the season. We'll look forward to talking to you soon.
Hey, I will. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Doreen Carden joining us on the Blue Frame Technology Hoopsville hotline via the phone. I'd love to have her and appreciate her taking the time to do so. Going to take a quick break. By the way, again, they're 13-2 overall, 6-0 in conference play. Again, at home coming up Saturday, at Trine next week, and then 2 games between Adrian and Olivet before then playing Hope and Trine again on the 29th and February 2nd. Take a break. We're going to take a pause in the I'm a little nervous about this, to be honest, because I'm afraid I'm going to screw this up somehow. But we're going to try and pause the broadcast and let it start on our other system without kind of breaking everything up, and then run a break there so that we can get the best of what we were trying to accomplish earlier in the program. So we're going to take no, you know what, Andy? We're not going to do that, buddy. I'm sorry. I just realized why we can't do that. I'll explain to him off air. I just looked up and, no, I can do that. No, you know what? We're going to do it. No, we're going to do it. We're going to do it live for anybody who doesn't get that reference. So we're going to take a break. Your stream is going to pause. We will come back somehow. Don't worry. We'll come back. We're not going to drop the stream, but we'll figure it out. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com. Thanks to our friends at Blue Frame Technology. The real test of their friendship comes right now. When we take this break, we'll see how this goes. Hang tight. Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. I'm going to have to get used to now looking at a monitor to know when I'm back on the air. I'm normally the producer who doesn't have to worry about that. And now our audio's all over the whack again. I don't get it. Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Welcome to the show. Hope you're enjoying it. Got questions for us? Tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us hoopsville@d3sports.com. Join us on Facebook, facebook.com/Hoopsville, or on we're on YouTube as well, youtube.com/Hoopsville. Someone made a comment on YouTube, and I don't get it, so maybe we don't need to worry about it. So bye-bye. All right, men's basketball. I told you we're catching teams that are flying a little bit on the radar, not getting a lot of top 25 attention. Maybe they should be. Anybody looked at Eastern recently? Eastern men's basketball, top of the MAC Commonwealth right now. Only 2 losses. I told you, everybody only has 2 losses going on right now. And, they've only got 2 losses. So you know what I have to do. We have to talk to him, right? Joining us on the Blue Frame Technology Hoopsville hotline, it's Dan Prusser. I forgot to check in the off-air.
Yeah, Prusner.
There is an N in there.
Yeah.
Good point. Hey, sir, thanks for joining us on the show. Eastern doing real well, as I said. 11-2.
11-2, 12-2 with that forfeit loss in there.
That doesn't go on your overall, coach. Don't try to get your overall. But you're also undefeated in MAC Commonwealth play right now. Give us a sense of how the season's going from your perspective.
Well, first of all, appreciate you having me on. It's been, we started out the year, heading down to Roanoke, and we had the opportunity to go down there and when I talked to them and found out that we would probably more than likely be going up against them, first of all, their first home game in quite a while, and then as well as taking either the winner or loser of Marietta Christopher Newport. I think we kind of went down there and after we got a big home win against Salisbury earlier, and then we went down there and Roanoke really handed it to us the first night, and then we weren't quite sure where we were at. And all of our guys were watching Christopher Newport, Marietta the next night, obviously watching 2 top 25 teams in front of us. And I don't think anybody really knew where we were at. And, we walked into the gym the next day and competed with Christopher Newport for the majority of the game. We were actually leading that game for probably 30 minutes or so. And we walked away from that game right there. And I think the guys kind of realized, hey, we can do this. And from then on, it's been good. It's been good. Guys been locked in. They've been focused on their ultimate goal. And so I think it's kind of one of those things where it's just been kind of rolling and things have been going well. So we hit a couple roadblocks here and there. The COVID roadblock that everybody's hitting right now, a couple injuries as well. But even through those, we've somehow been able to keep this streak alive, and so guys are really starting to buy in and believe what they can do. So.
Catching this early. Yeah, the audio's still quirky, but we're working. It looks great. Yeah, it was tough. There's no way of looking around that. You guys, it's not like it was going to be an easy schedule to some degree anyway. You kind of knew that as you described, but playing well against it, and for in some way that's got to be the crux to this, because your 2 losses are back to back against behemoths in what is a good Roanoke team and a really good Christopher Newport team. But then you got wins where you needed them. You got wins, for example, against Messiah. You got win against others in conference when you needed them to be wins in conference. If anything, those 2 wins are the 2 losses are almost helping you at this point.
Right, and I think that's it too. I mean, we've been able to get those wins, and a great example is last night. We were at Albright and really shouldn't have won that game, and guys just found ways down the stretch to make big plays and in tough moments, and that's the way it's been, and so even the game before that, we went up against Hood, had 4 guys out of our top 6-7 man rotation. I think my assistant coach told me before we went into the game that he said, "Coach, you realize we're down 60% of our scoring going into Hood," and so he told me that. I'm like going, okay. And so the funny thing is we had a couple guys in and out. We brought a freshman right out of COVID, and going up against Hood, who was also 4-0 at the time. And the kid, I think he's averaging probably 3 or 4 minutes a game at the most, and dropped 26 on Hood. And so, which is just, it's just exactly. It's one of those things where you're just like, okay, and so it's just been moment after moment like that, that the guys just seem to be stepping up. So, we're enjoying it. And, ultimately, though, the guys realize, we still got a lot of things in front of us. And it's not going to be this easy as well. So we're going to hit some roadblocks, but I think guys are ready to handle it.
By the way, hats off to Dan Mao, who's giving me all kinds of great notes. The one I skipped right over is how to pronounce your name. That's not Dan's fault. That's definitely on me. Let's kind of start things over a little bit here. You took over for Eric McNally, who's now the AD, who had a tremendous run as head coach at Eastern. You came from North Carolina and Florida, so for starters, you got lost coming north. But you take over this program that was doing so well, and to some degree, and from what I gathered, and I could be wrong, Eric kind of went hands off on you to let you go with where you needed to go with it, and you're still kind of learning the ropes, even though you know the ropes. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No.
How has that experience been?
It's been great. You sit there and when your athletic director is the guy that you took over, for there's a little pressure there. But he's been nothing but phenomenal as far as supporting. I had the opportunity to come in as his assistant, as he was, kind of going, knowing that it was going to be his last year. And so we had a good run. And I tell everybody this, like he laid the foundation for this program. I mean, people don't realize, they went to the playoffs 4 straight years in a row, and got to the cusp of getting that conference championship game and just lost a few tough ones. But the foundation was definitely laid. There's no question about that. And so when I took over, we actually had Victor Pena, who was a rogue all-conference player. He actually blew his ACL out, so he came back for his 5th year. And so we, bringing him back with a couple other guys, it was a heck of a team to get your first year. And so I mean that was pretty exciting, and it was definitely a different tempo we're playing now. I think we averaged about 32 post touches a game. And so we really pounded it inside and got to the conference championship game for the first time in school history, won 17 games. I mean, it was a phenomenal year. It was a great year. And so, we got to Stevens Tech and they put 4 guards on the perimeter, and we just had a hard time matching up with them. I think Jimmer Fredette put a jersey on over there and shot for them while they were playing. But we just had a hard time guarding them. We really did. And so I loved our size, but the reality was, and this probably goes to McNally and how well he recruits. I just wasn't quite sure I was going to pull in 3 6'8" bigs like he did. And so we kind of knew kind of my ties a little bit, my North Carolina ties, Florida ties. We kind of wanted to change a little bit, kind of what we were doing, and we wanted to go after that, that 6'3", 6'4" athlete and get up and down and be versatile. We wanted guys to be able to guard multiple positions on the floor, to be able to get after it 94 feet. And I'll tell you, Dave, the big thing was, we brought a couple guys in that allowed us to do that. And then last year was COVID, right? And so many guys want to forget about COVID. COVID was the best thing that could have happened to us. We went 0-9. I'm not sure if you saw that, but like it was tough. But at the same time, our guys gained an identity last year, and that identity was huge, and kind of figuring out who we really were. Going 0-9, having some guys in COVID, we found ourselves in situations where, we're down 20, we're down 25, and then, 5-6 minutes later, we're down 7-8. And, I'm sitting my assistant coaches on my bench, and I'm just going, man, this is who we are right here. We get after it. We cause turnovers. And so that identity that these guys kind of bought into, really has determined where we are right now. We got our senior captains have been phenomenal. They really have been. William Blett and Teron Bacon and Dre Cooley, all three guys that Coach McNally brought into the program, they're kind of the last of those that group of guys, and all three of those guys, and it probably fits Dreg a little bit more than it fits Blett and Bacon. But all those guys have kind of taken a step back and said, Coach, we love what you're doing. We see the rest of the team. We think we can adjust our games to be able to fit what you're trying to do. And so, it's kind of taken Blett a little bit away from the paint a little bit, even though, he had 32 and 7 against Lehigh and completely, he did his thing there. Not bad. And so, and Tehran has been great. I still think he's one of the best shooters in our league. He's not shooting quite like he should. But having all three of those guys buy in to what we wanted to do as a staff has been the foundation, I believe, of our success. And so that's been great.
Maybe you've answered this, but I'm kind of curious. You guys went 0-9 last year. And granted, I don't put any stock or a ton of stock into the COVID year because there's 100 things that could have gone sideways and did. But the conference seemed to put some stock in it because when the conference vote came out, a couple of them voted you 8th. Everybody else voted you 9th.
Yeah.
And here you are sitting on top of the conference right now as we're halfway through the regular season, obviously not conference play, but you played 5 of the conference games. You're ahead of Hood, who's 8-5 overall, 5-1 in conference play, and Alvernia, who's 8-4, 3-1, and Stevenson, who's 8-5, 3-3. Is it just that last year had such an ick, as it were, that the guys have just come out gunning? Or is it something that, granted, there's transfers and all that, but is there something that not everybody realized, or the third option, and you maybe alluded to it, is things are just going and bouncing your way, and the guys have taken the onus upon making sure things continue to do so?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of that. That may or may not have been bulletin board material in the locker room.
Oh, so it was. It was.
But our guys, yeah, that's what I love. We got phenomenal guys, but at the same time, they do have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, and that's kind of what makes them who they are. And we don't hold back on that at all. We let it go, and we let our guys kind of be them to a certain extent. As far as kind of having that mindset. So, we told them at the beginning of the year, and this was even through COVID. Like there's 3 things that we push, and one of them is control what you can control, be better every day, and then seek to serve. And all 3 of these guys, or the entire program has bought into all 3 of those areas, I feel like, and that there is one thing or another. I do know this. I was talking to an assistant coach or that earlier. I said, hey, listen. I was like, we're still the same staff that we were last year. We haven't changed anything, and so what is the exact thing?
Losing coach there. I'm not sure if it's on our end or his end. Apologize. Coach, you there? We'll jump into ours here in case he comes back on us here. Not sure if it's our internet or his internet as he froze up, but we'll get him back here in a moment. Should we get him? Interesting conversation with Dan Prusner, the head coach of Eastern. Again, Eric McNally taking them to such success, and then seeing him come in and take over, it's fun to see. I'm not seeing Coach in there. I'm not sure if we've lost it completely, if it was on our end or what, but we'll probably have to wrap it up. Well, yeah, we lost him. We'll give him a moment to get back. We're a little bit behind schedule. We'll give him a moment to get it back. If we don't get him back, we'll at least thank him and get him on to maybe sign off another time. We were wrapping up the interview anyway, so maybe Zoom just understood. No, you were done. I'm sorry, you're finished. You shouldn't be speaking no more. If you got questions for us, you can always tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us hoopsville@d3sports.com. Join us on Facebook, facebook.com/Hoopsville, and lots of other ways you can get a hold of us. We're just going to hang here a moment and double check that we're not missing Coach for some reason on anything. We may have just lost it. It simply may have lost the internet, and so be it. That happens from time to time. I think we lost him nonetheless. we'll touch base with him, and we'll thank him for his time. Eastern, again, playing really well. Just to remind you, they have their first game against York in conference play coming up here on Saturday. On Saturday. Then they're at Lebanon Valley next week, along with at Messiah. Then they're home against Widener to wrap up January. So that'll do it. We'll take a break. When we come back, switch gears, talk women's basketball. Women's basketball coach from Utica will join us to talk about what's going on with the Moose up in New York State. Is the Moose loose? We'll talk to her about that. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA NABC studios. More from her and from everybody else when we come back.
The love of the game. But for those of us who are Division III student athletes, it's more than that. A lot more.
Sure, the game is important, but as we work so hard to build both mind and body, it's more about team.
That is why NCAA Division III teamed up with Special Olympics, and in giving the gift of sport to those for whom it seemed an impossible dream, we are working to make this a better world.
Help us keep that dream alive.
You can make a difference.
I used to never really talk. Ever. I was afraid if I said something wrong, everyone would laugh at me. But then I started to play golf with Special Olympics. It helped me to find my voice. And now everyone else is speechless.
Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Hope you're enjoying the show. We're kind of doing the newfangled thing, not for the first half of the show, but the second half of the show has been working. So far, so good. Despite all the graphics, all the technical issues, we're still in the air. Still ahead, we debut our top 25 double take on the women's side. Gordon Mann will join us, along with Riley Zayas. And Riley, I hope I'm saying your last name right. We'll find out shortly. If you got questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. You can email us, hoopsville at d3sports.com, facebook.com/hoopsville, youtube.com/hoopsville, simulcasting the show there, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All right, so women's basketball up in the old region, East region, which is now Region 3. If you haven't looked at the Empire 8, I'm going to say it because I've said it all day. A Moose is loose in upstate New York. Women's basketball team at Utica is undefeated, folks. And, when you can get a team like that on your air, I'm shameless. Families from up there, I'm going to go to the 315 and call them in. So joining us on the Hoopsville hotline, presented by Blue Frame Technology, it is Michelle Davis of the undefeated Utica Pioneers, which we can talk about how they're related to a Moose later. But, Coach,
Yeah.
more importantly, you're related to an undefeated season right now. How are things in your opinion?
Things are great. Number one, thanks, Dave, for having us and everything that you do for D3 sports in general. And I think that's great. It's wonderful what you do.
Thank you.
Things are great, obviously. The team's playing well. It's fun, and to be 12-0, wow, it's
yeah.
I'm really proud of them. Plain and simple. I'm just really proud of the team.
Well, there's pride, and then was it expected? And I'm curious, was this season expected? Did you think you had it in you guys to be at this juncture of the season, and we'll talk about the historic side of it in a moment, playing this well, or to some degree is some of this a surprise?
I did not think we would be 12-0 by any means. I know that we had a little bit weaker schedule with some of our non-conference games. But, also with that, I think it gave some confidence for some of our younger players because we didn't have a season last year. So we had a lot of those froshmores, sophomores and freshmen. They outweighed the returners. So I think, kind of having that little bit of a schedule helped us out just to go to that. But I certainly thought we would be good because we have great leadership. We have some really great seniors on the team, and they just work their butts off. And I knew we had talent. I thought we would have had that last year. Our season did not happen last year, unfortunately. So I was excited coming into this year. But 12-0, no.
I gave you 13. I gave you a bonus point, just because I can. I'm allowed.
Maybe you're foreshadowing what's going to happen this weekend.
Well, so. Right. That and conferences in the NCAA allow me to just sprinkle wins wherever I want them. It's the new COVID rule.
I love it.
Don't you wish?
Give me two this weekend.
I could actually make some money on this system. Getting some coaches contacting me for some extra wins. Where's the key been then? Like where is the crux of how you're undefeated and playing this well? Is it happenstance, catching teams at the right spot? Is it teams got something secret we don't know about? Like where should we be looking to understand how you're undefeated?
Yeah, again, I think some of it was the scheduling. We didn't play a lot of really strong teams early on, but it wasn't bad because we got people in. And again, not having a season since February, of 2020, the last time we played, I think it was okay, right? It was okay for us to get into it. But I will say we have some really great defensive minded coaches, and my assistant's great at our zone that we put in. We press a ton, but we don't foul. We play a lot of 2-3 zone, but yet we get steals off of it. The other night we had 17 steals in a zone and didn't press. So those type of things I think are really impressive.
That's huge.
And if we don't put people at the free throw line, the Hamilton game, we were 80% from the free throw, shooting 17 for 20, and they were 0 for 2. The Hartwick game that was just on Tuesday, they were 1 for 6 at 16% from the free throw line, and we shot 85%, 20 for 25. So we're getting to the line because we're attacking, we're setting ball screens, but yet we press and we play zone, and we just don't foul. We're aggressive and do things. So I would say that would be the reason that we're successful. Because if you look at the numbers, we're holding people, even good teams, right, in the 50s. There's a couple schools, Morrisville. We went and played man to man against them, and that was a high scoring game. That was like 90, I don't know, 70 to 85 or something like that. And the Oneonta game went into overtime. So that was high scoring, but otherwise we're keeping people in the 50s for the most part.
Well, we can talk about the stats, and I want to get to that in a second, but historically, obviously, this is huge because this program's never really been to this point, if memory serves. Best start to a season ever and matched the longest winning streak now in program history. You're doing something right there at UC. Is the pressure off, or is now the pressure maybe even further on? Does that make sense?
Yeah, certainly. Tuesday night at halftime, I will tell you, we were spinning around in circles. We just did not look great. We were down 10 at the half. I think it was 27-37. And I just said to him, like, number one, we have to slow down. And number two, what's it matter if we lose? We are going to lose at some point probably this season, right? So just relax. Like, just play the game. The objective right now is to be one of the top, 5 teams in the conference, but I'd rather be one of the top 3 teams in the conference. so that you get either have home court or you don't have to play that 4 or 5 game. So that's where the pressure is. There's no pressure right now. Go out, play, and work hard. And this whole week with Hartwick on Tuesday, they're going to be a playoff team, and then St. John Fisher tomorrow night, and Nazareth on Saturday. This whole week is playoff teams that we're playing. So just go out and compete, and just try to get one here and there when you can. It's okay. It's okay. Just play.
I feel like I did to you what I did to Albion's head coach. She comes on the show. They're undefeated in conference play. By the way, they got number 1 Hope on Saturday. They've got number 6 Trine on Wednesday. 2 more games, and then it's number 1 Hope again, and number 6 Trine. They play those 4 times in 6 games. I feel like I did it to you guys too, because as you said, you had Hartwick, big win by the way, 62-56. Then St. John Fisher, and then Nazareth, and of course they're going to be lurking on the back end of that season. So I apologize in advance. But
no, it's okay.
Back to the Hartwick game. What worked? Because that's a huge win for you guys, where it could easily have been a stumble, as you said, to a team that's probably going to be in the playoffs.
Yeah, they just come at you, right? They don't stop rebounding. They're sending people down the lane. And I told them just to slow it down at halftime, us defensively. I said, I actually used like a Matrix reference. I said, once you stop spinning around and you see what they're doing, we're not going to be running around so much in our 2-3 zone. And they did, and they slowed it down. And Hartwick came out and they hit a long range 2 to start the half. And then we held them, I think, scoreless for about 7 minutes or 7.5 minutes. And, we outscored them that quarter 20-4. But we also got more aggressive attacking the basket. Because we had a lot of steals, which we talked about. But even within the steals, we were pulling the ball out. Attack. Force the officials to make decisions. Force the officials to make calls. And we weren't forcing them to do that in the first half. So I would say the 2 things that happened was defensively, we did a much better job. We settled down. We started, seeing what they were going to do. And you got to remember, the game before we were playing Puka, who averages 43 threes a game to attempt, which we average 17 threes a game. So it's a completely different mindset that you have when you're playing that kind of team. And then we go to the Hartwick days later, we play Hartwick 2 days later. But I would say it was us attacking the basket. We took advantage when they had some of their players out, and we took advantage in the post. And defensively, we really, really improved. To giving up 37 points to, what was it? 20 points, 19 points, whatever it was.
You had said something there I want to ask you about.
Mm-hmm.
Because this has kind of come up, not directly in conversations, but I've heard people maybe talking about it and grasping it. You said forcing officials to make decisions. Is there a mentality to some degree that you're going to be able to get what you want to, or get results as you need them, and so be aggressive to a degree? I guess I'll leave it at that. Is there a thought process that there's no way they're going to call everything and we're going to take advantage of that?
Yeah, you would think. Yeah, I mean, you said that, I think, fairly well. And this is the thing, though. For us, we really don't foul a lot. We don't foul a ton, so when the other coach is yelling, look at the fouls in the game, you can't look at the fouls. You can't compare the fouls.
No, you should.
Because they're usually playing man-to-man against us, and then we're playing a 2-3 zone majority of the time. So it's different. It's a different level of aggressiveness. Our aggressiveness is in the full court. But even with that aggressiveness, a lot of times we're looking to just burn the clock, But for us, we set a lot of ball screens, a lot of post-guard ball screens, and we're looking to get the ball in the paint. And anytime you get the ball in the paint, I think there's always an opportunity for a potential foul to be called, depending on what's going on. Rotations are late, or you just can't keep up with the person that you're defending, so.
Talk to me a little bit about your team. I'm just going to call her Sydney because I know I'm not going to say the name right. I know your SID gave me some notes, but I'm just going to not try to botch it. 17 points a game, 11 rebounds a game. Oh, it's nice to have a double-double on average.
Yeah, Sydney Prisgoda.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate you stumbling through that for me.
No problem.
Talk about her, and then we'll talk about the rest of the squad.
Yeah, Sid has been a very steady staple since her freshman year, her first year. She's been starting for us since then. Our last full season, we made it to the conference playoffs, and she averaged I think 18 points and 11 rebounds that season. As a sophomore, she just scored her 1,000th point, which unfortunately she's only played 3 years for us, well 2.5 years, and did that. It's just unfortunate that COVID happened, because I think she could have left here probably as the all-time leading rebounder, broke a record from 1984 and so forth. But she is so unassuming. If you watch any of us, every single shot is in the paint. She does not shoot anything outside of the paint. Not a single shot. And anybody that looks at a shot chart or watches any film, so it's not like I'm sharing some secret with our opponents, she doesn't leave the paint. But yet she's tenacious, she goes after rebounds, and she just works hard. And she's not real big, she's 5'9", 5'10". So it's not like she's some 6'3" that's just dominating people. She has a phenomenal work ethic. And a lot of our players also have that. A lot of our upperclassmen have that work ethic, and they just all feed off of each other. We don't have captains on the team. We have players of the day, and that's the captain. So that person gets out the equipment, that person gets the water. They all have a say, and that person speaks to the team after practice or before a game. They're the captain that game.
Interesting.
So, we'd like it to be kind of a democracy, and all of them to have a voice and all of them to have a say. But Sydney's phenomenal. I love her, and I'm going to miss her. I mean, not only am I going to miss her because of what she does on the court, but, she's just a great student, a great person, and I really enjoyed having her on the team.
And there's other players we could certainly talk about: Jundro, DeMarco, Sawyer. You have what some would argue is maybe a conference rookie of the year candidate in Geraci, on top of Brizgoda, who's probably a conference player of the year in general. Of course, Boyer and Carter. You have depth on this team. Last year, unfortunate, couldn't play. Some degree got everybody rested too, but also got out of your control. You couldn't coach them up like you normally would.
Right.
You're now at this midway point of terms of total games. You're in the crux of a difficult part of the conference play. What's the message to the team, and what are your expectations for the last half?
Yeah, we just need to keep improving and just keep continuing on. I mean, that's what we've been doing, and that's what I told them the other day. I said, every game I feel like we've improved, and now we're playing the tougher teams. Like I said, we started with kind of a week non-conference schedule there, but we had some really tough games. The Hamilton game, I wasn't there. I actually got COVID, I think, at Christmas, and my assistant had to do that game, and the team was down 9, and they came back. And they pulled it out, and we only played zone the entire game. I think we pressed 3 times. I just did what my assistant was most comfortable doing. I didn't want to stress her out anymore than she already was.
I see how it is.
And it was like breaking a record for like the most wins to start a season. So it was extra things on top of it. And she just didn't want to see her, And then I thought we came out really well in our first 2 conference games, with Elmira and McHugh, did a real nice job. And then obviously just continuing, we were down 15 against Hartwick, and to just settle down and really attack them. Just really, really, really proud of the team. So yeah, the hope is let's continue going forward. Yeah, there might be a loss here or 2, and that's okay. You're playing for that 3rd season. Your non-conference is your 1st season, your conference is your 2nd, and then your 3rd is making playoffs and hopefully making a run and winning the championship and getting to move on to NCAAs. That's the fun part about it. And we're in the mix, and I love it. And they're just a great group to be around.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't even talk about the fact that you came roaring back against a huge deficit to Hartwick. I mean, that I feel like we kind of buried the lead on that one, but obviously pretty impressive. Hey, Coach, I appreciate the time. I'd talk to you more, but we gotta cut you loose so you can go find that moose that may be heading up Route 12 for all we know.
You got it.
As always, we appreciate the time. And appreciate the perspective and insight. As always, though, we also give you the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who might be tuned in?
So, the pioneers, we used to be, the guy with the rifle, like the Davy Crockett. They wanted something that was a little bit different and maybe a little more neutral. And actually, our former president went to some shop and he actually saw a moose. Literally the whole outfit, the mascot outfit, and he just bought it and he goes, "This is what we are." So
all right,
that's how it
all right.
became.
There we go.
So they were still pioneers. But thanks for having me, really, and thanks for everything that you do for people.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate the kind words. Good luck the rest of the way. Thanks for the insight. We got this great Griffin's, Gorlock's, and Gusty's book. They did mention that the Mascot is a friendly 7-foot creature. Tracks the Pioneers' care. Good luck in the Empire 8. We'll look forward to talking to you and enjoy the season.
Thank you so much. Have a good one.
Michelle Davis joining us on the Blue Frame Technology Hoopsville Hotline. We'll take up another break. When we come back, we debut the top 25 double take. Gordon, Riley, give us their debatable, their deep dive, and their I always forget the other one. Anyway, they give us their thoughts on the top 25. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by DHoops.com from the WBCA NABC studios. More Hoopsville when we get back.
My name is Marcus Walker. I was All-State, won a state championship, a high school All-American, and played college and pro ball. I played because I love the game. I grind to be the best. I sweat because I put in work. I'm strong because I believe. When I want to bring it before game time, I come to the house that college basketball built, the CBE. No matter your skill, take it to another level. Elevate your game right here at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center. Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Hope you're enjoying the show as we roll along on this Thursday evening. If you got questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us, hoopsville at D3sports.com. Join us on Facebook, facebook.com/Hoopsville. We'll fix my audio here. It's all over the place, but we'll get it fixed. By the way, we also have one more segment after this. We'll basically do at the end of the show what we were trying to do at the beginning of the show and just give you some notes from the previous week. So on the men's side, we've always had a top 25 double take, or not always. In the last few years we have, talking about what we thought were teams that were too high in the poll, too low in the poll, not getting enough respect. Maybe teams that needed to be a good debate because one person had them high and one had them low, or whatever the case may be. We've struggled to try and do it on the women's side. We've had Gordon Mann on the show a few times to kind of give us his thoughts on the women's side, but we haven't grilled him with his deep dives and others. Enough was enough. We had to get this segment built. We finally did, thanks in part to Gordon, who did some heavy lifting on it. At least gave me some good ideas. And we finally reached out and got some people. What we're going to do is the men's side, a few new faces in the next few weeks.
The women's side will be a little bit more flowing, a few extra people coming and going, giving their take. So to start this one off, of course, we went out and got Gordon Mann. Were we crazy? Of course we did. The other one we went out with, a little off the beaten path. We went down to Texas. It kind of runs true to the crew. Not spelled the way you would think it is, due to the crew, but we'll get to that another time. Riley Zayas joins us on the Hoopsville hotline, presented by Blue Fame Technology. Both of them join us. Guys, thanks so much for taking the time. Gordon, good to have you back as always. Riley, welcome to the show, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Dave. Excited to have the opportunity to come on here and talk some women's top 25.
Yeah, it's nice to have a Southern voice, too, just for the record. I mean that literally, a Southern voice. First and foremost, Gordon, I don't think this top 25 could have been any easier going into this week, thanks to cancellations and postponements. There wasn't a lot of movement. Just give us a quick synopsis of the poll in general.
Yeah, you're right. This is one of these polls where, we distribute the information on Sunday, and usually it takes folks until, the latter part of Monday to get their ballots in. There were a lot of ballots in quickly on Sunday night. I think of the results, I'm trying to remember, you had Whitewater beating Eau Claire, but in a close game, and both teams were in the poll. I think you might have had, I don't know that there was anybody else in the top 25 who lost the game. Now, there were games involving teams outside the top 25 who lost. So Wheaton lost and has been in a bit of a tailspin, and they were just on the fringe of the poll. So all those votes went to other people. But you do see people will move teams around. They'll reassess where they have teams, even if a team hasn't played, hasn't lost, whatever. And you see teams pick up votes who didn't do anything necessarily within the last week to earn that. I don't know that Drew even played a game, but they have a vote. Utica didn't play anyone of significance. They played Cayuga, but they have a vote. So you do see people will shift things around even if teams are not playing. Voters are not locked into just considering the last 6 days before they cast the ballot. They're always free to go back and reevaluate everything to see if that big win that they thought was great in January or in November looks less great now.
It looks exactly. How many times we go back to a top 25 and go, oh, that doesn't look as good as it used to? Happens more times than we care to admit. And sometimes it looks better sometimes too. Right. Let's just get it out of the way. I don't vote in the top 25 unless Gordon needs me to, and then I can scramble for a ballot for him. But I certainly keep my eye on it. So unlike the men, I'm not going to necessarily have answers to these, though I will push the guys a little bit on what their picks are and maybe have my own 2 cents. But I'm not going to have my own choices on these. We're going to keep the same names because it's just a lot easier. We'll have a debatable team, which is basically a team that each of them thought would be worth a conversation about, not necessarily plus or minus. A deep dive team, a team that's either barely getting votes or not getting votes at all that maybe deserves some top 25 attention. Why? Each one will have one of those. And then one that is dubious, that is way too high in the opinion of that one individual on the top 25. Gordon, we'll let Riley kind of get into this. You know this a little bit, so we'll let you start. I'll give you the choice of deep dive or dubious, and then we'll go from there.
Let's do the dubious first. Let's get the bad news out of the way, and then we can talk about those shining lights outside the poll. Sir? Yeah. So for dubious, I would say I look at Wartburg as dubious. Wartburg, 13th in the country, but does not have a resume this year that supports that. Their best win is either Dubuque or Wisconsin Platteville. They got utterly annihilated by Simpson at Simpson. I think the final result of the game was 19 points, but it was 30 before Simpson pulled all their players. Yeah. Wartburg lost to a good Redlands team, who I was somebody from Redlands pointed out to me isn't receiving any votes in the top 25. And when I've watched Wartburg play a little bit, Jaden Murphy is great. I mean, she's an All-American, in waiting, but I just don't see a lot else there in Wartburg this year. It's a great program. I don't think they're down for long. But one of those things where if you're watching scores, they were up 2 points or 4 points on Nebraska Wesleyan entering the fourth quarter. Nebraska Wesleyan's 2-9 or 2-7. So it ended up being a 14-point game. I think most voters will look at that and go, they won relatively comfortably. But when Wartburg's good, that game is 35 points entering the fourth quarter.
All right, so fair point. Wartburg, yeah, it's probably a little dubious. I'll admit, when I looked at the ARC for a guest, I went and compared Simpson and Wartburg, and I kind of came away with the same thought you did, Gordon. It's not the Wartburg I'm used to seeing, especially schedule-wise. We're used to a couple big behemoths in there and then playing well against them.
Yeah, and they like everyone else have lost games from COVID. They have a really good holiday tournament. It would have had, I think, Eau Claire, Stevens Point. I don't remember who the fourth team was, but it was a good holiday tournament, and just couldn't play it.
Riley, who would be your Dubious pick?
Yeah, my Dubious would have to go with Eau Claire. They're at number 11. Watching them in the way they played, I think they definitely deserve to be ranked, but I think 11 is a little bit too high for them. Just from what I've seen recently, especially you even look extremely recently last night against Stout. I mean, they did not shoot the ball well. The looks offensively were not necessarily where I had seen them earlier on the year, and I think they definitely need to clean things up a little bit on that side. The turnovers were a little bit high too, and Stout, the thing is, someone pointed out, Stout was the worst defensive team in the WAC, and credit to them for the performance they put on against Eau Claire, but I definitely think, 11 might be a little too high for them. I mean, they also had a couple of early losses. The Calvin loss, to me, is not very impressive. There's sometimes things as a good loss to a team, that's great quality. Nothing against Calvin, but Eau Claire, from what I saw from them early in the season till now, it doesn't look like the same team.
Where would you put them?
The hard thing about evaluating Eau Claire, and I agree that they're particularly coming off the loss to Stout, and I also agree that their offense, having watched them, they've really fallen in love with threes. They have really tall kids who shoot the three well, but they shoot it a lot. Yeah. The thing that's hard if you play the comparative score game is they beat both Trine and Simpson. Yeah. So if you have those teams high, I think the value of those head-to-head matchups, the further away you get from them, becomes less and less. But that's really helped them as far as their ranking.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's completely, and that's the thing is those wins earlier on in the year, the team that we saw on the floor, I think it's still the same team. You watch the way they play, but the offensive shooting, they had opportunities even last night against Stout to win that game, and just weren't able to convert late. And I think those are the things that separate them early on the season in those wins over Trine and Simpson.
Good point. Yeah, good point.
Interesting. Yeah, no, I know I've been keeping an eye on Eau Claire. I thought they were having a decent year, but yeah, even last night's score kind of startled me just a little bit. All right, so it's now time for the deep dive team. And Riley, you get to go first this time. So maybe take Gordon's pick. I don't know. We'll find out. That happens on the men's side more times than I can count. That's why we make sure we spread the wealth. Riley, who would be your deep dive team?
Yeah, I think it took me a little while looking at this, and I looked at a couple of different teams over the last week or so. But, Milliken really sticks out to me. I like what I've seen from them a lot. And when you look at a team that's playing in CCIW play the way they have, 6-0, the performances they put up, I really have been impressed by just how they've approached their games in terms of they've really come around a lot. They had the losses to Chicago and Wisconsin Lutheran that had me kind of looking at them unsure, and I think that's probably why they are so low. They had 3 points in this week's top 25 poll, but I think they're much, much better than that. You look at the way they played certain teams, the competitiveness in November, I think till now, that's why I've been most impressed with. You look at sometimes the way a team plays in November, they're able to learn from some things and come back in December and January with a little bit of a different setup, and I think that's what's happened with Milliken. I think they're definitely a team that we could be looking at come March.
We should point out they had 3 games in 5 days. Exactly. Those 3 losses to DePaul, Chicago, Wisconsin Lutheran. 2 of them in the top 25, but still, that's a rough stretch for Olivia Lett's squad. But I like your pick. That's a good one. Gordon, any thoughts on Milliken before you give us your deep dive?
That was my pick too. I've got
we
that.
did it
so
on
that's
the first
all right.
night.
I am all 3 of their vote points. I have the 22nd.
That means you got them 22nd.
Yeah.
23rd.
The 23rd, it would be right. Yeah. So I think everything Riley said there was right. I think it's a good team that had a sometimes if you have a cluster of losses in the poll, it can kill you because teams, voters will look at that and go, in fact, a team near and dear to Riley's heart, which I'm sure we'll talk about here in a bit, even if you lose back-to-back games early in the year, voters can say, and kind of put those aside. The deep dive team I would go with would be Roger Williams. So undefeated, CCC, not a powerhouse conference, but not a terrible conference. And if you look at prior to Smith beating Babson, if you looked at their schedule, actually it's pretty comparable to Springfield. Now Springfield's 18th or whatever they are in the country, they're undefeated. Springfield's going to play a better conference schedule eventually. They're going to play Babson. They're going to play Smith. They're going to play MIT. Those are better than probably anybody Roger Williams will see in their conference. But if you just look at the non-conference schedule for Roger Williams, it is not noticeably different from Springfield, from Smith, from Bowdoin, from all those teams. Now, I don't know that Roger Williams would beat any of those teams, and they're not going to play them, so we're not going to know. But I don't think it's unreasonable for a top 25 voter to have Roger Williams on their ballot. I don't. But I don't think it's unreasonable to have them on their ballot, somewhat similar to, the folks who are voting for St. Lawrence or even, frankly, St. John Fisher, who I look at St. John Fisher and I don't see a big win in there either. Again, Empire 8 historically better than the CCC. But remember, last time the CCC was in the tournament, they beat Scranton. It was not Roger Williams, but the team from that conference beat Scranton at Scranton. So that conference it puts forward a good representative. And I always love it when someone who's never been ranked cracks into the top 25. Roger Williams has never been ranked. They're slowly working their way towards through the also receiving votes, but that would be my deep dive focus.
Good choice. By the way, sidebar, you mentioned Springfield. Of course, Roger Williams head coach Kelly Thompson, graduate of Springfield.
Yeah.
By the way, also beat Babson did Roger Williams. So you got a little bit of a crossover there with your comparison.
Yeah, I was thinking if Springfield lost to Babson, that probably would have helped Roger Williams move them up because voters could have played the comparative score game. But Springfield didn't destroy Babson. It was a 4-point win, and so
it was a 6-point win for Roger Williams. So yeah.
So I think you can still tie those two teams together. Again, until Springfield plays and beats 3 other teams that they haven't played and beat. If they do, they may not. But that's what I would go with.
No, I like it. Great choices. All right, so we'll go debatable here. We'll start with Gordon in case we run out of time with his fatherly duties. I loved your choice when you told me it, sir, not because I think they don't deserve the attention, but I was kind of curious where your mind was going because I've been talking about this team off air with a lot of people for quite a bit now. Go ahead, give us your debatable team. And Riley, this is where we want your opinion too.
So I think there's a debate as to whether Christopher Newport is the number 2 team in the country. I don't think there's anybody who would debate Hoop at 1. There's certainly not anybody in our poll who would debate that. But I think number 2 is really open-ended. We talked about them a few weeks ago. Before they lost to Whitewater and Stout, I had Eau Claire too, even after the loss to Calvin, because they had beaten Shrine and Simpson. And then when Eau Claire, even before this last loss, I had dropped them. I have Shrine too. I've seen Shrine play with Hope. I know that Shrine lost to Eau Claire.
Right.
But I've seen Shrine. Shrine is the only team I've seen that I've seen with my own eyes, and I know they can play with Hope. Probably true of other teams. Unfortunately, we won't know until March. But for Christopher Newport, you look at them, what they have in their favor is ridiculous margins of victory over everybody, with the exception of Gettysburg, who's not ranked anymore. Now, that 3-point win over Gettysburg looked pretty good when the Bullets were 18th in the country. Now that they're not ranked and they got kind of shellacked by Mary Washington, that 3-point win looks less good. The upside for Christopher Newport is, and 2 things I would say in their favor. One is the margin of victory, and 2 is they are very deep. So they run a lot of players. They have to because of their style. They run a full court press that they call the captain's chaos defense. But they're very deep. And the only other team that I know that has that depth, 1 through 10 in the country, is Hope. Hope switches 5 in and 5 out and doesn't lose very much, right? Their 5 starters are great. Their 5 reserves, if they broke off and formed their own school, would be top 10 in the country too. I don't know that Christopher Newport's reserves are that good, but they at least have the depth to do that, where frankly Trine Amherst, who plays 8 players, Whitewater, who who goes 7 or 8 really deep. Christopher Newport has that depth. So in a year where you could lose 2, 3, 4, 5 players for a game for 2 weeks because of COVID, it's reasonable to think, okay, which of these teams has the best chance, not just because they're playing Pratt, but because which one has the best chance in terms of depth to stay there. So I have Christopher Newport 4th. It's debatable whether they're really the second best team in the country. We'll get another important window to that when they play Mary Washington, who just moved into the top 25.
Big game on Saturday.
Talk about the knock on Christopher Newport in priors has been, if you get a team who can slow it down and can take care of the ball, you suck the life out of them. Because Christopher Newport thrives on turning you over in the backcourt and scoring layups or threes off of it. They need tempo and they need turnovers. So if you get Amherst, who slows it down to a snail's pace, Tufts, someone like that, and Mary Washington prefers to play that style, whether they're able to or not, that's where Christopher Newport a little bit can be. I'm not sure it's harder for them to win a game 43-41.
Fair. Go ahead, Rob.
Now, there's no reason, in my opinion, they shouldn't be in that top 5. Now, at number 2, though, to me, who they played and their quality of schedule is something that makes me a little unsure about them all the way up at 2, which is probably part of the reason why you had them at 4. I think that when you have a team that plays the way they play with the defense, forces about 31 turnovers a game, I believe, they're so reliant on the turnovers. They're so good defensively. They can win those defensive battles. I think they're a team that really, you put them up against anyone else in the country that has a quality offense, they're going to force turnovers and they're going to take advantage of those. So I would say putting them at 4 or 5 is where I would have them at. I mean, I agree with you on that. I don't think they're at 2 just because of their strength of schedule, but the game against Mary Washington should answer a lot of questions as to how they fare against a top 25 team.
The only thing I find interesting about Christopher Newport is they've got wins over teams that have better records than you realize. Roanoke's 9-2. They had a rash of teams, unfortunately, that
Gettysburg
don't have great records. But what was the other one? Gettysburg, obviously 9-2. Southern Virginia 9-3. Handful of them, not a lot, and that's where you're getting at. I certainly can appreciate that. And teams, by the way, that normally are good. They've got a game. Marymount, normally a really good team. Not coaching change and shifts and all that stuff, just not there like we're used to. So, sometimes it's not the schedule you draw up; it's the schedule you end up playing. So. Right. Gordon, I know you're going to lose you quickly, but I want to get Riley at least his thoughts quickly on Mary Hardin Baylor in case you want to rebut anything. So I gave yours away, Riley. You're on the show. You're a fan of Mary Hardin Baylor. Not surprisingly, you're going debatable on Mary Hardin Baylor, but I think you've got some good reason, and tonight kind of helped your cause slightly.
It did in a big way. I mean, a win at number 14 ETBU definitely helps their case. I think the thing that I was interested in when you look at the top 25 is you have an ASC, the American Southwest Conference, with 3 ranked teams in UT Dallas at 24, Hardin-Simmons at 19, and then, of course, ETBU at 14. And yet the team leading their conference standings with a perfect record in conference play is unranked, and that's Mary Hardin Baylor. Gordon, interested to get your thoughts on kind of what led to Mary Hardin Baylor being unranked at this point. I mean, they were 8-0 entering the game tonight. They had a win on the road at Hardin-Simmons. They had a win at home over Rhodes, who, of course, that was back early in November. The losses, though, at Trinity and Colorado College had to have hurt them a little bit. Is that kind of why, in your opinion? I mean, the rankings are the way they are, because I think a lot of people are kind of scratching their heads saying there's 3 ASC teams ranked, and then there's the team at the top of the standings, and it doesn't happen too often that team is the one that's.
Yeah, I think it's 2 things for Mary Hardin Baylor. I think the voters have had a little bit of a bias early in the year towards the teams who played last year, who played well. So if you look at them on paper, East Texas Baptist and Mary Hardin Baylor, I would not have been able to draw a meaningful distinction between them this year. And in tonight's game, which went overtime and down to the last shot, showed you how even those 2 teams were. But East Texas Baptist started in the top 10, and Mary Hardin Baylor wasn't ranked at all. Why? And I know Mary Hardin Baylor beat East Texas Baptist last year in the ASC, but Mary Hardin Baylor's record overall last year was 13-8 and 7-7. So I think that was one thing. The second thing is, in the early part of the year, we had a bunch of games. We had kind of a normal schedule. And when you lose 2 of your first 3 to Trinity, and I actually think Colorado College is pretty good. I know they don't have a great record, but I actually think they're pretty good. If the voters on the women's side, when you lose 2 of 3, it's very easy to drop off the radar for the women's voters, and it's much harder to get back because the majority of the women's teams, we have 8 undefeated women's teams still, who will have 0 crossover with each other. So, I mean, you could have 8 undefeated teams at the end. It's much harder once you fall off the women's radar to climb back up. But if anyone has the case to do so, it's the team that leads the deepest conference in the country and has now beaten almost all of those teams. Yeah. So Mary Hardin Baylor has definitely should be ranked. I think they will be this week. That's not provided they don't lose to Bellhaven. That's not a great pronouncement. I would be curious from you though, because I have a hard time as a voter. I've almost moved them all in a cloud of 5 up and down my ballot. I'm Trinity ranked too. I'm almost all of their points too. And I keep moving them up and down as, because I can't distinguish between the games, this would be that one and that would be this one. So they just all kind of move as a cloud. Is the cloud, are they too high as a cloud? Are they too low as a cloud? Should they be a cloud in the top 10? Where should that cloud be?
Here's the hardest thing about a conference like the ASC. All the games are very close. And you look at the way the teams play, there's so much parity. And they're so both, you look at Hardin Simmons, ETBU, UT Dallas, and then, of course, Mary Hardin Baylor. They're all playing with a very balanced style. And you look at the results of those games, no one's completely dominating against another one. And so I think that's what makes it hard to kind of separate the two. As far as kind of moving that cloud, like you talked about, I think probably just right where they're at right now. I think between that, 13 to 23, 25 spot. I think UT Dallas definitely has some work to do if they want to get up into the top 20. But Hardin Simmons and ETBU certainly have the case. ETBU, we see the way they played early on this season. Mary Hardin Baylor, you look at what they did. They had a 10-point lead over Trinity, who's receiving votes. At the time when they played them back in November and blew that 10-point lead in the second half. And then went up to Colorado College, played in altitude, had trouble adjusting, and just couldn't get back in the game. So those are the 2 losses they have. But then you look at some of the other teams, and the same case could be made for different reasons. Almost all the losses, though, you look at those top 4 AC teams, came in that November, December stretch. So it's definitely a hard place to put all of them. But I think right there, kind of middle ground. Now, interesting to get your thoughts really quickly, too. Mary Hardin Baylor has beaten now the other 3 teams in the AAC that were ranked. Do they jump ahead of them, or how
they should be the head of the cloud, right? Because you could say, yeah, but Trinity beat them, but then you get into but so and so beat. Mary Hardin Baylor is the only one that's beaten more than one of that team and done it on the road, right? And that to me is big. And it didn't happen in November; it happened 25 minutes ago. So if I'm evaluating the top 25 teams now and not who I thought they were in November, both the recency of their win, the number of the win, and the road factor, which I consider to be really, really important, they should be if you have the cloud approach, they should be the first one in it.
They is talking about, how you mentioned Christopher Newport's step. ETBU is a team I really like because of that. And Mary Hardin Baylor, frankly, for that same matter, they have such a balance, and they can really rotate 5 in, 5 out pretty easily. You see them doing it a lot of games. ETBU does in every game. They start with 5, replace 5, and so they do that complete switch. Having that balance come tournament time or even conference tournament time late when the games start to matter a little bit more in February, and all the things that we've talked about with COVID, you never know who you're going to have out on the floor. Having the depth where you have 10 players who have played a lot of minutes definitely helps you. I think that makes the AAC such a tough conference throughout this season.
Agreed.
I know we got to let Gordon go. Gordon, I'm not going to hold you, but there was a question who we thought would match best with Hope in a possible tournament matchup. You kind of answered that earlier. You think it's Trine, right?
I do. I mean, of the teams I've watched, Trine is the one that I know can play with them, and that Hope knows can play with them, and that they know they can play with them. I'm sure they're getting tired of losing to the same faces over and over and over again. It's hard for me to find a next one on the list. I thought it was Eau Claire because they had length, but they, their offense is not quite put together. Amherst makes me pause because they only play 8 players or 7 players. Whitewater will be the next one on the list, and I think I have them third. I like their size. I think Grundall and Johanna Taylor match up pretty well with Olivia Voskuhl and whichever one of the 35 forwards Brian Morehouse happens to be playing forward that night. The thing I don't know is Hope's guards are fast and long, and Whitewater's guards are a little short and fast. And so I wonder if Yisa Santo Domingo for Whitewater can get a shot off when she's playing against players with, big wingspans.
Yeah.
Those would be the next 2 on my list.
Hey, bud, I appreciate it. I know you got to run. Thanks so much. Riley, stick with us for a second here. I got a couple questions for you, but Gordon, take care, and we'll look forward to talking to you down the road.
Yep.
And Gordon Mann joining us, and we switched screens to just Riley. Appreciate Gordon coming on, and Brennan, and we hope that answered your question on who we think matches up with Hope. Riley, we haven't got a chance to really get to know you, so I figured I'd spend a couple minutes here real quick. You're part of True to the Crew. A lot of people spell that TRU to play off the CRU. You add the E to be a little bit more, what's the word? Appropriate. That's the right spelling, and I understand that. Give us a quick sense of what got you into Division III outside of if it was just Mary Hardin Baylor and being a student there and kind of what you're doing now.
Well, I'm actually not a student at Mary Hardin Baylor. I'm a junior in high school.
What? Nope, that's it. He's done. He's off the air, folks. We can't have this kind of stuff. Oh, I'm sorry. My microphone's still on, isn't it?
It's kind of interesting how it kind of started. I'll summarize that for you. But you started getting into sports writing with the Sports Illustrated Kids Kid Reporter program back when I was in middle school, I think. And really, I always enjoyed sports and the stats, different things that went into the sports beyond just the games and that were played out on the corner of the field. So I ended up, covering Texas Longhorns down for a couple of years. And
well, we won't fault you for that, Riley. It's the wrong division, but we won't fault you for it.
Moved up, yeah. It's one of those things I always had known about Mary Hardin Baylor up in Belton, not too far from me. And, of course, the football program, we know what they've done, but basketball has been incredible the last 5-6 years. Men's, of course, under Ken DeWeese for quite some time, now under Cliff Carroll, and the women under Martin Moorfield. And kind of thought, hey, D3 doesn't get a lot of coverage. I noticed the success these programs were having. Wanted to read about Mary Hardin Baylor just because I knew they were close and was interested in them and couldn't really find a whole lot about them. So thought, hey, what would it look like if we took this model that we have for so many Division I schools where we cover one school in depth, go kind of beyond the stats, cover the stories, and put it to a Division III school. And it's worked out in a huge way for Mary Hardin Baylor. That it would be awesome if more people would do something like this, because Division III coverage, what you guys do, what Pat and D3Hoops.com does, it's incredible, and helping to really get some of that promotion for Division III sports and Division III basketball, because there really needs to be more of it. The level of play is so high, the talent's so high, and that's always been my goal in it, just to really give these athletes and coaches an opportunity, to be able to be covered and really cover Division III as a whole, because the teams that Mary Hardin Baylor plays, cover them as well and leading up to the matchups. And of course, would love to do more with Division III, just limited in terms of my bandwidth. But yeah, that's kind of how it started. And really, I've been impressed by how many people have begun to support it and follow True to the Crew. It's been awesome.
Well, hey, thanks for coming on the show. Appreciate it. We'll get you on a few more times with your thoughts on the top 25. You're not the youngest who's ever appeared on the show. That goes to Derek Kale, who is now an assistant coach at Oswego. But we don't get that many youngins on the show, and I appreciate it. Well, I guess the youngin's now my son, but we haven't seen him on camera technically. Don't you dare think about it. But thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it. And your insight was helpful. We'll look forward to getting you on, whether it's next week or in the future somewhere, to get your top 25 take. And, hey, enjoy the rest of the season at the very least, and we'll look forward to talking to you down the road.
Exactly, Dave. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Looking forward to coming on again and as we get closer to tournament time.
Absolutely. Hey, we'll talk to you soon. Thanks again for your time. And I know you got another game to go cover, so we'll let you get off the hook and do that. Take care of yourself.
Thank you, Dave.
Riley joining us from True to the Crew. We appreciate him taking the time. We're going to take another break and wrap up the show. Andy's past his bedtime, but we're going to get one more segment in. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the NABC studios. Thanks to our partners at Blue Frame Technology. And, of course, the Blue Frame Technology and, of course, the WBCA is what I meant to say. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by all of those groups. Back with more after this.
Receive a non-athletic scholarship upon entering school.
I got the presidential scholarship, which was huge for me.
I think there's more opportunities for academic scholarships in Division III.
I did receive academic scholarships. Just being involved on campus, being a leader, all those things combined kind of get me recognized. It's a great experience for me.
College basketball lives in Kansas City at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center. The College Basketball Experience is the place to get your game on. It's not a museum, it's an experience you won't forget. Discover the history of the game in the National Collegiate Basketball Hall of Fame, featuring the Gallery of Honor, Mentor Circle, and Honor Theater. Suit up in the latest CBE logoed Nike gear at the CBE Hoop Shop. Elevate your game today and visit the house that college basketball built.
Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Whoa, there it is again. That audio all over the place. There we go. I think that's the sweet spot. We're going to go with that with the audio for now. Telling you, this computer's got a mind of its own tonight. If you got questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us, hoopsville at d3sports.com. You can also tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville, Instagram at D3Hoopsville, Facebook.com/Hoopsville. We did get a question earlier if there was any audio coming through. Clearly, we were having tech issues earlier. So anyway, I want to thank all of you for tuning in, and thanks for joining us. Real quick, I want to thank my son, Andy, for not the show we anticipated having, but he did a good job nonetheless. Unfortunately, it's well past his bedtime, so we must send him on his way. So, sir, good night, so long, farewell, Auf Wiedersehen. Thank you so much. You can see him wave, and good night. He will be back on future shows, and we will certainly do a better job of keeping things rolling along. I want to thank him. Good work by him, to say the least, as we let him go. So a couple things we didn't get a chance to get around to. because, first beginning of the show didn't go off so well. First and foremost, got some scores from around the division we'll keep an eye on. Johns Hopkins coming off of a loss to Swarthmore on Tuesday. Swarthmore was leading 32-31 at the end of the first half. Johns Hopkins actually got up in the second half, played really well, but it was a big run near the end of the game, and Swarthmore ended up outscoring Hopkins by 8 in the final half to win by 9, 78-69. Listen, I thought this was a Hopkins win at one point. Hopkins also started the game well. They played well in the middle of the game. They played well in the second half, but it ended up being Swarthmore in the end. Ryan Scott making a comment that it looked like the depth of Swarthmore ended up being the advantage. I say that because those two teams tonight, it's a three-game set for the Centennial play this week, and Swarthmore defeated Washington College 98-47. Washington College got trucked. Oh, who was it? I just forgot. Lost earlier this week. I'm going to have to look that one up because I thought I knew who it was. I thought there was a good Washington College team this year, but they're not playing as well as I thought. Remember, they only lost to Yeshiva by 9. They lost to Franklin Marshall 85-66, and the game wasn't even that close at one point. So, anyway, Swarthmore the big win. In the meantime, Hopkins is playing McDaniel, and the last score we got there, it is 58-41. So Hopkins only led by 6 at the half, but they're extending the lead in the second half. There's about 6 minutes left to go in that game. Marion, Baylor, and East Texas Baptist are playing right now. Obviously, if you're listening on the podcast, they're not playing right now. It looks like Gettysburg and Franklin and Marshall in a bit of a battle, also in Centennial play. That's tied at 48-48 in the final quarter of the game. I'm trying to see if there's any other games. Oswego defeated Potsdam 76-58. It's probably a team that's going to be getting more and more attention. Cortland blitzed Plattsburgh by 30, 82-52. St. Thomas of Texas defeated Trinity of Texas in men's basketball 59-51. That's a big win for St. Thomas. And Trinity, Texas, which has been playing well and been receiving top 25 attention, takes their third loss of the season. And let's see, I don't see any others that jump out at me. On the women's side of things, Hope got its 58th straight victory with a 94-49 win. No matter how you look at it, it's a reverse score, 94-49, 49-94. It works both ways. Marion Baylor, we mentioned earlier, got a win over East Texas Baptist in overtime. Let me go back and double check how that one played out. This is how Riley tweeted it. I said 5 seconds left in overtime. Bethany McLeod, another big steal on ETBU's inbounds pass. Missed both free throws, but ETBU misses on a layup at the buzzer, and Marion Baylor wins. That's how that one played out. Hardin Simmons easily got past Howard Payne 78-45. Trinity and St. Thomas down in Texas are playing now. That's coming up on halftime if it hasn't gotten there already. Looking at other scores that jump out at me based on how teams have been playing, and maybe I'm just missing on it. Hopkins beat McDaniel 47-38. Haverford with a big win over Ursinus 60-48. Saw Haverford recently. They're a pretty good team, but McDaniel came from 15 down to almost beat them. Well, not almost beat them, but almost tie it. And I said that wrong. Gettysburg beat F&M 65-40. Again, this is women's basketball, and there's a bunch of other games in there as well. So, interesting night. Around the nation, you really should check it out. Ryan Scott goes, he teased it on the last show, and he did it. 10 from D3 who starred, and of course, talking about in the pros. He basically breaks down who he felt were the best top 10 players who played in Division III and went on to play in the pros. As the caption says in the picture, we're not giving anything away by saying that Devin George, a first Division III player drafted in the first round of the NBA draft, is high on this list. Yeah, that's an obvious statement. But it's a great article. Definitely should go and check that one out. A note from last week that I totally have forgotten to get into the show. Wisconsin Whitewater women's basketball team last Wednesday, dealing with COVID, had an interesting quirk, as it were. I'm double checking who they were playing because I don't want to get this one wrong. Last Wednesday, they played, was it Oshkosh? Is that the right team? Yeah, we were playing Oshkosh, went into overtime, and they won 67-63. Neither Oshkosh nor Whitewater had their head coach. Both of them were being assisted by assistants. Whitewater didn't even have Carola's husband, who's assistant, there either. So both assistants coaching, and both games that game went to overtime, and it was a 67-63 win for Whitewater, who's won 3 straight, by the way. Oshkosh, Eau Claire, and Platteville, playing River Falls on Saturday. Just an interesting quirk, and just what we're dealing with COVID. Not how they drew it up, as it were, but it's how it played out. So that was a note I've been meaning to get into a bunch of shows, and I just keep forgetting to do it. Trying to double check if we got any questions. I forgot to check email. I apologize if anybody's emailed us. There we go. We did lose Dan Prusner. Probably by the time we shut it down, he was trying to get back in. That's our fault. But we weren't sure how much longer we were going to have to go. So we had technical issues across the board today. Double checking if any of you posted somewhere else in a comment. So we just want to see. It says, when do the first regional rankings come out? Sorry, Travis, for being so late on this, if we're just seeing it now. They won't come out until February. Remember, we get 3 regional rankings, and they lead into the final games. Final day of the regular season is February 27th. So the 3rd week will be the 23rd. 2nd week will be the 16th. 1st week will be the 9th. We won't get regional rankings until February 9th. We're looking to do our marathon either the week of the 31st of January, which is the 31st, February 1, 2. So either January 31st or February 3rd or February 7th will be one of the 3 dates we're looking at to do the marathon, because the rankings don't come out until the 9th. I have a feeling, I don't know. I'm going to toss it around with some people, try to figure it out. But regional rankings do not come out until the 9th, just to the quirkiness of the schedule, because we finished the regular season on the 27th. So there you go. Hope that answers your question, Travis. Sorry for my delay in getting to that. I just didn't get a chance to see it until now. I think that's it. I didn't have any other questions. Sorry for the quirkiness of the show. We're finally working out how we want to do this show the way we really want to do it. And now we just got to figure out why this mic's not working. I think I'm going to get rid of the new connection we have with it and go another direction. But we want to confirm that first. But thank you, everybody, for appearing, or everybody being on the show. Really appreciate it. We'll be back on the air Sunday, 7 o'clock Eastern Time. And we will have, let's see here. We will do the Old Northeast, the Old Atlantic, the Old South, and the Old Central regions. So that means regions 1, 2, 4, 6, and 8. 1, 2, 4, 6, and 8 will be our... So it's basically kind of the even number of regions, not counting region 1, are on Sundays. The odd region numbers are on Thursdays, not counting region 10. Basically how you can look at it. We'll talk even numbers on Sunday, along with region 1, because region 1 and 2 are basically paired. And we'll talk odd numbers on Thursday, and that is exception of region 10, because 9 and 10 get paired. Make sense? Already working on the marathon show. And got some great guest ideas there. We're gonna hash those out, et cetera, et cetera. So there you go. Stick with D3Hoops.com, of course, for the updated scores, updated schedules, updated anything that we can get our hands on. We will do our best to update everything we can. And there you go. If you got a guest idea you think we should talk to, email us, hoopsville@d3sports.com. If you want to be an advertiser or a sponsor on the show, email us, hoopsville@d3sports.com. If you've got questions for us, you can also email us. You can also tweet us. You can also Instagram us. We can try and interact there. And every other way, shape, and form. So there you go. There you go. Travis, thank you. Apparently you asked a minute ago. Well, that's called great timing then. By the way, another thing that nobody thought of, but Ryan thought of it tonight. Remember, we try and remember who has priority on the opening weekend. In an even number year, I thought it was women, but it's men this year who will have the priority in the opening weekend. Women will have the priority in the second weekend of the NCAA tournament. So remember that. Odd number year, it's women who get it first. Even number year, it's men who get it first. And no, we don't believe that because we lost last year that changed. I think that just to make life easier, they kept it the way it was. Really, if remember, that's an all-division thing for all sports. So if they changed it, that would have affected sports that did play in a year that basketball didn't, and all that craziness. So there you go. I think that's going to wrap it up. Appreciate you all tuning in. Thanks very much. Sorry for our challenges, but things are going well. And we figured out some of the quirks, and we figured out some of the cool stuff that we can now do with the show. Maybe some of you saw some advertising that doesn't always run. For you on the podcast, we're still figuring out how to put ads in, so your breaks might have actually been a little bit shorter this time around. I want to thank our guests who appeared on the show: Aaron Griess from Augsburg, Doreen Carden from Albion, Dan Prusner from Easton. Despite the technical difficulties, we apologize missing out on Dan at the end. Michelle from Utica, and of course Gordon and Riley in our top 25 double take. We'll do the men's double take coming up on Monday. We may be adding another voice to that just for the fun of it. And there you go. I got nothing else. I want to thank my son Andy for starting to learn how to do this show as well. He is the new producer extraordinaire, as we used to call the title when Chris Tower was here doing things. We'll add to his plate. He may be the one who's running things a little bit more on Twitter during the show, but thanks all the same. You've been listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com. I want to thank our partners at D3Hoops.com. Of course, also our partners at the National Association of Basketball Coaches, the Women's Basketball Coaches Association, also the Blue Frank Technology, where we get to have all this fun with the technology that gives you the show. But, of course, gets us to also stream the show on Amazon TV, Roku TV, Android TV, and Apple TV via the Team One Sports app. If you're listening to the podcast, I hope you're finding it on the avenue that you so choose, either on SoundCloud or the many other options we have out there. If, for some reason, you don't and you got this message, let us know where you like to listen to it, and we'll see about adding it to that portal as well. That'll do it for us. We'll be back on the air Monday at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. You've been listening to Hoopsville. If you want to talk Division III basketball, you've got to listen to Hoopsville. Good night, everybody.